Kewaskum Statesman, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, WIBD, WMBZ Radio, and WTKM Radio. The above action is in conformity with the state of Wisconsin's open meeting law. Before we begin with the consent agenda, you may notice a fresh face in the crowd and a new member and a new member to our Washington County family. I'm going to leave it for Chief of Staff Ed Eberly to make the formal introductions.
It is my pleasure to introduce Catherine Wellner, who is going to be serving as our new Communications and Community Relations Director. We are very happy to have her on board and welcome her to Washington County team. Thank you.
Okay, well, welcome. We'll begin with the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion. Supervisor Mahalik, Supervisor Guzzi. Any corrections, deletions, comments? Hearing none, we'll just vote. Oops, I'm sorry, Supervisor Conrath. Wait a minute, let me get you on.
Yes, actually, I would like to amend the agenda. I would like to vote to strike 6B, C, D, and E from the agenda.
I'm gonna
To allow
I'm gonna have to
for-
place you out of order at this point because we're not addressing that yet. We're right on the consent agenda. So when
Okay.
we address those on the agenda, I'll let you, you can do this then, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the consent agenda, Supervisor Sorcy, did you have a comment? Okay. Just a voice vote, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on, personal appearances, letters, and other communications. Check presentation to Albrecht Free Clinic.
Oh, no. yours is not.
Okay, thank you. So Washington County and County Executive Showman have a tradition of donating 100% of the proceeds from our employee appreciation raffle to a local charity. This year's raffle was held on April 16th and the charity is the Albrecht Free Clinic. The Albrecht Free Clinic believes everyone deserves access to quality health care. They exist to meet the medical, dental, and behavioral health needs of the uninsured and underinsured individuals living and working in Washington County, Wisconsin. Through the generous donations of our community partners, we were able to raise $3,000 to help support this great cause. Tonight, on behalf of Washington County, we present this check to Ruth Henkel, Executive Director, and Alyssa Mosel, Clinical Supervisor. Thank you for all that you do to support our great community, demonstrating compassion by being empathetic and caring for those we serve. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Next on the agenda is commendation of Samaritan Health Center, the Fields Community-based residential facility and residential apartment complex staff and residents, and Julie Driscoll will make a presentation.
Okay. Whereas on March 13th, 2020 at 4:30 p.m., Samaritan Campus was ordered by a state of emergency for Washington County to shutter its doors to any non-staff and non-essential workers due to the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic. This response in effect until deemed acceptable to open by the Wisconsin Department of Human Services and the Center of Medicaid and Medicare and the Center for Disease Control. Whereas these measures were and are deemed precautionary and proactive in nature, intended to ensure the safety and well-being of the vulnerable populations. Whereas the staff of Samaritan Campus have constantly learned, worked, reacted, and responded under extreme and fluid conditions for the past year, working diligently to protect the health and safety of the residents while ensuring that there was ongoing high quality of care and quality of life through this pandemic. Whereas residents of the Health Center, Fields CBRF, and Fields RCAC have endured the extreme challenges of not being able to have visitors at all or under any usual or normal conditions, not being able to congregate for meals or smaller large group gatherings, yet have maintained a sense of adherence and adaptability, supporting each other, their families, and the staff. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the department directors, all of Samaritan Campus staff and residents be hereby commended for their focus on public health and the care and concern for each other throughout this past year, creating selfless acts, vigilance with infection prevention, and the utmost care and concern for each other, all while upholding the values of Washington County and serving each other with professionalism, dedication, and compassion. This commendation is most fitting as we celebrate May as Older Americans Month. Please congratulate the staff of Samaritan Healthcare Center. I would also like to take this time to pay special recognition to Mary Beth Borak. She is retiring as the campus administrator this Friday, and we thank her for her service to Washington County and for her selfless regard for our clientele, and we appreciate her last 4 years of work here in Washington County. Thank you so much, Mary Beth.
Next on the agenda is commendation of Amy Mangan Fisher from UW Extension. Come on up. And unfortunately, I have to read the whole thing to you, so. Commendation of Amy Mangan Fisher. Whereas the Washington County University of Wisconsin-Madison Division of Extension has a purpose to teach, learn, lead, and serve, connecting people and educational resources, engaging with them and transforming lives and communities. And whereas the Wisconsin Association of Extension 4-H Youth Development Professionals has awarded Amy Mangan Fisher, our 4-H program educator, their 2021 Colleague of the Year for distinguished efforts in colleague development. And whereas Amy demonstrates ability to elicit confidence and build rapport with colleagues, creating a team-oriented environment. And whereas a team-oriented environment supports multi-county collaboration, inspiring members to apply for expanding access funding provided by 4-H Foundation, creating impactful youth outreach programming. And now therefore, Josh Shulman, Washington County Executive, hereby commends Amy Mangan Fisher for her commitment to distinguished efforts in colleague development, resulting in effective outreach to youth and families, setting a professional example in fostering multi-county partnerships while creating extraordinary opportunities for support and growth of colleagues, positively contributing to the quality of life in Washington County. Signed, Josh Shulman, May 12th, 2021. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you very much.
Oh, that's what you shake your hand on. I'm sorry.
No, no worries.
All right. All right, awesome. Did you want to say anything or good to go? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, Scott Schmidt will be presenting a broadband white paper presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As part of the county's strategic priorities, I was asked by the county executive to do a broadband paper and look at it for Washington County and see how the status of broadband is within Washington County. You'll see in your packet, we had 2 white papers. One was a single 1-page, kind of a synopsis version, and one was a multi-page, which provides a little more detail and information to the board, as well as the general public as well. I was aided on the project, Dave Barber and Eric Damcott to help me out. A little technical assistance definitely needed on the project like that. So we're looking at doing is finding the current status of broadband throughout Washington County, determining what, if anything, needs to be completed to provide this essential service to provide economic growth and vitality, ensure we're providing access to basic needs to all residents, and determining funding sources to assist with broadband expansion if it is needed. I think this was actually brought about by the executive prior to the pandemic, and the pandemic really pushed this to the forefront when you looked at it, that, you know, when people are either working from home, doing healthcare from home, students were doing their students' work from home, it really became essential that broadband was out there. And I think we heard loud and clear that the broadband in Washington County is good, but maybe not perfect and could use some work. So we'll go through kind of some stuff that we found out here, and at the end, some conclusions. So what is broadband? Obviously, internet access and connectivity, defined by the PSC and the federal government as 25 megabytes per second or more for upload speeds, and 3 megabytes download speeds for 25 and upload for 3 megabytes per second. And those can be wired or wireless. Found a nice handy chart there, what that actually looks like when you're looking at 25 megabytes per second. So if you have 10 to 25 in that advanced, the lower right, that means you can have multiple high demand applications simultaneously large downloads, right? If you're in the moderate, that light blue, you have basic plus streaming video, live video, and gaming. So if you're in that 4 to 10 megabytes, you can have one device in your home that can do streaming video, right? If you have a couple of kids or the parents or other people doing more video, you obviously need more high bandwidth, right? The higher you go, the faster your internet speed. So that's kind of nice take on it. But basically, even with 3 devices, you're at the moderate level, just basically doing your streaming live video and gaming and stuff like that. So not a lot of internet access speeds there. What we did was we used the PSC's website to get existing broadband service. On the left-hand side, you'll see the wired internet service, and the other right-hand side, wireless internet service. What you want to see on the left-hand side is that dark blue that gets you the greater than 100 megabytes per second. Then that kind of lightish grayish is 25 to 99 megabytes per second. So Washington County's got a pretty good expansion as far as that's concerned. And I'll use a little pointer here in a second. So you can see all the blue areas that are in there are pretty well developed as far as wired is concerned. The grays, obviously, no wireless is available. The maps from the PSC are a little dated. They're about a year old or so, 2019, so a little over a year. Also, it's done by census blocks. What a census block is basically bounded by a road, a river, a railroad, kind of small sections of those communities. But if one person has a wired internet access in that census block, the PSC says everybody has a wired internet connection in that census block. And so we know that looking at that map, there's some areas in there that look like they're served, but probably are not served quite real well. I'll point you on the wireless connection. You'll see the whole county is at that 25 megabytes to 99 megabytes per second. Megabits? Oh, megabits. Yes, sorry, megabits per second. Sorry about that. And so you see, except for Germantown, and what you're looking at there is that most of the county says they have great connectivity. But if you're out there in the rural areas, and we have a large example there, you could probably imagine that they probably don't have that wireless service that is up to that snuff and up to that standard. At some point, we'd like to go ahead and do a survey of the public perhaps and see just how their internet service is compared to what the PSC is telling us what's out there. We did a random survey of all the staff at Washington County as well as County Board Supervisors. We're invited to do that to say, what is your internet service? What services you provided on your service, and a whole bunch of other questions that got there. And we did that survey to kind of see how accurate are these maps that the PSC puts forward. So there's options out there right now that are expanding the wireless service. The blue that you see on the map, the light blue, are the areas that are currently being funded by outside sources to improve the wired internet service in Washington County. The green areas have funds available to be wireless service to Washington County. The Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, the one you see in the blue on the top, has a completion date of 2027. So you can imagine that if you want to act quickly to get wired service up to those areas, now you're going to have to wait another 6 years before that's completed. To date, the company that's supposed to do that hasn't even submitted the plans yet to the FCC or PSC. So it's going to be a little bit of time before wired service gets there. That does not mean that wired service is not coming to those areas. In your packet, you'll see that we have highway permits where up in Wayne that wired service is being put in there by Frontier. All right, so we know some are going in there, but the town of Wayne doesn't actually do permits. Town of Addison doesn't do permits. So it's really hard to tell exactly where they're doing. And the companies don't want to give us their data, right? What's their current plan? Where are they going, right? It's competitive out there in that world. So we can't really tell what's Frontier actually going to cover? What aren't they going to cover in those areas? What you see, they also did the Connect America Fund Phase 2. That's completed in 2021, but that was at lower speeds at 10 megabits per second. The CARES Act came through. Washington County was not awarded any funds for that, for the CARES Act to do broadband. I already mentioned the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund with the 2027 completion. The Wisconsin broadband grants, those are out there. We applied for that, but since that map on the right that I showed previously was blue, the PSC says most of the county is served. We're not underserved. We're not served. It says, look at that blue on the right-hand side there. That means your county is served. You don't have a problem in your county. But I bet you if we polled some people here tonight, they would say, no, we got a problem with wireless internet connection that's out there. We also looked at the National Telecommunication Information Administration Grant Program. We weren't eligible for those. Broadband Connectors Pilot Program, we did apply for that last year, did not get that. Our neighbor to the north, Fond du Lac County, did. And we're working with them to see if there's something we can do at our northern tier where we butt up against Fond du Lac County to work with them. They just did their own survey to the public. I think it might be closed now. I'm not really sure, Eric, and it was out there and available. Okay, could be closed now. But looking at tabbing onto them, basically grabbing their same questions, getting that same data from the public here in Washington County. And the last one is the CRISA funding, and I'll touch base on that in a second. That's the latest. What's also called the American Rescue Plan. That information came out yesterday to know what we can actually use those funds for. If you're not familiar, Washington County is set to get some funds from the federal government from the latest round of stimulus. One of the things that the county could send that money on is the American Rescue Plan and broadband infrastructure. So if you read up here, they say it's currently unserved or underserved areas in words lacking wireline connection. So it's really good that we saw that word wireline connection, right? Because if they would have said wireless connection, we probably wouldn't have been able to use this for that service, right? But they said wireline. So that means that's a good thing for Washington County, right? That we can actually use this service, use those funds if we want to provide that wireline service, those last mile connections. So that's a good thing, delivered at minimum speeds of 25 megabits per second, a download, and 3 megabits per second upload. One thing that I found very comforting in there is that later on in that same paragraph, they're offering reliable 100 megabits per second downloaded and upload speeds is important to the federal government. And that's important to Washington County too. I think in all our residents in Wisconsin and across the nation is to get that higher speed and connectivity that's out there, right? That now we're eligible maybe for grants at the state level because maybe they think we met that 25 when we're not actually there. We actually get grants to actually get up to the 100 megabits per second. So conclusions. There's a couple things you could do. Washington County could create a pilot program providing for installation costs for satellite, cable, or wireless systems for low-income earners that are out there. One of the things we did look at was the satellite system. We know a couple of deputies in the sheriff's department that have that so far in the beta testing, and they say it's working out really well. Now, the systems are not completely up and running yet. We don't know what it's going to look like when everybody is served in that system, but the initial look at it of the Starlink program looks pretty promising. Now it's out there right now. Washington County could support a policy change to redefine those download as upload speeds. And that's where we looked at the 100 megabits per second in there, knowing that the federal government's already looking at that, because that standard of 25 and 3 is I think it was at least 8 years old or 10 years old, something like that. So looking at maybe updating those standards, which might make us eligible for more grant funding available at the state or federal level to meet that. We were looking at creating a web application. We found out during that survey that people really didn't know what all the options were in their neck of the woods. We thought, well, we can create a web application to put that out there and saying, if you click on your home, what internet service providers are actually in your area, either wired or wireless. The challenge with that is it's by census block again. So again, it might be in front of my house and Brad's a quarter mile away. It says it's available, but it's really not available to him. So that's one of the dangers of doing a website like that. When you say, hey, these are available, give them a call, and they call them and say, no, we're sorry, they're not available. But at least it might give you an option, 2 or 3, that you say, hey, maybe they are available for a wireless service that's potentially out there. Outside of federal state funding, Washington County could use our funds to provide partner with broadband, looking at just wireless or wireless networks, well, outside grant funding to look and spend money that way to see, is there a way to go out there and provide a good wireless network in there, maybe fill in some of those gaps that are out there that maybe we know about. And that could be certainly this company called Ethoplex. Again, you could wait for that Rural Digital Opportunity Fund to take place by 2027. Again, Starlink or Amazon's Project Kuiper, that's a satellite system. We've all heard of 5G, and if you look at some of those Verizon and T-Mobile apps, hey, we're set. We're perfect in our county. That's just not the case. If you have a 5G phone and go in certain areas of the county, it's just not there, but that might be one option that happens too. So the technology is moving very quickly right here, and not sure we want to get all ahead of our skis yet, but there's a couple of things that the county could pursue. And as we look more at this, the latest American Relief Fund Act, and to see what those funds will be used for at the county and potentially using them for broadband. So that's kind of our synopsis here on broadband, kind of a short explanation, if you will, and hope you had a chance to read the white paper. And if you have any questions, certainly can. So right now we're just kind of in the holding pattern. If there's something you see there that you like, let us know, and something you think we should probably proceed or look at doing. If it's worth a survey or if it's time to act a little bit more. But like I said, we're going to look at those funds to see what we can actually utilize those funds for. Again, that determination just came out yesterday. I took from the 8-page synopsis, and I know the whole act was a much, much longer document than that. I know we're still looking at it as a staff.
Okay, any questions for Scott? No? Okay, thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Consideration upon request reading of resolutions and ordinances. 2021 Resolution 10, retirement combination of Paul Booth in the Sheriff's Office. Entertain a motion. Supervisor Marquardt, Supervisor Schultheis. Ashley's going to read it.
Whereas Paul Booth has contributed 29 years of loyal service to the citizens of Washington County, and whereas Paul Booth has chosen to retire from his present position of Deputy Sheriff Lieutenant at the Sheriff's Office, now therefore be it resolved that the Washington County Board of Supervisors pause in its deliberations to pay tribute and to commend Paul Booth for his 29 years of meritorious service. Be it further resolved that on behalf of all citizens of Washington County, this body does herewith extend to him heartfelt thanks for his many accomplishments and successes. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Paul Booth as a token of appreciation on the part of this board.
Stand. Normal. (2020) Resolution 11, amend 2021-2026 capital improvement plan, county highway projects, County Highway W and County Highway S. Entertain a motion. Supervisor Smisek, Supervisor Bossert. Before we get started on any discussion, one of the residents that is impacted by this proposed build out of Highway W has sent a letter, and I'd like to have Clerk of Court or County Clerk Ashley Reichert read it in its total.
Okay. The Wenninger, Gehring, Geller, and other Washington County farm families appreciate this opportunity to address you. As a whole, since we have been prohibited from doing so verbally, our concerns regard the proposed Highway W extension, which you are being asked to vote on tonight. You will be shown elaborate slides and a lengthy presentation. This extension proposal, virtually unchanged, was voted against by the board twice in 2019. The county voted against it for no other reason than it is unnecessary. When voting tonight, we ask that you consider the following. It is claimed that the Highway 175 and S and the Highway 175 and 83 are dangerous intersections. Since February 2019 to date, there were 2 accidents at 175 and S and 3 accidents at 175 and 83. You will be told, however, that they were high impact. If this safety concern is true and the need dire, why in the past 2 years has the county not addressed this problem? Is concern for loss of life truly the issue here? Improving Highway 175 and S and Highway 83 and 175, along with suggestions for rumble strips, a 4-way stop, and a roundabout should be done first. These improvements are estimated to only cost an estimated $450,000. Then evaluate after the needed improvements. Again, we ask that the county fix these intersections before being persuaded to build an entirely new road that will cost at least $2.21 million, increase travel time by a mere 20 to 30 seconds while increasing danger on this new roadway, exclude much-needed repairs on other Washington County roads, contribute to additional railway congestion in Allenton at the Highway W and 33 intersection, where at least 16 trains already snarl terrific every day. Everyone who regularly drives through Allenton is sincerely worried about this. But most of all, it will destroy 3 Century farms that are currently contributing to the economy of Washington County. If the Highway W extension is progress, isn't Washington County agriculture progress too? The county executive said in his April 22nd, 2021 speech that we need to gain a through and more in-depth respect for the struggles of our people in agriculture. Let's do that. This extension will not just destroy 11.4 acres of valuable farmland, it will dissolve a heritage, a kind of history in Washington County. These farms have remained in the same families through the start of industrialization, the Roaring '20s, the Depression, World Wars I and II. The families have protected and cherished this land through innumerable hardships. If the road was necessary, this might mean a yes vote, but it is ultimately unnecessary. Fix Highway S and 83 at a much lower cost to our county while showing respect for saving lives and consideration for this actively farmed land. A 27-year-old farmer of this land, representative of the future of agriculture in Washington County, present with his pregnant wife and small daughter, asks that you vote no tonight. Submitted by Ann and David Wenninger.
Thank you. Before we go into any comments, Scott's going to do the presentation, please. We didn't do that. Yeah, we did a motion second. Smisek and Schulteis. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Scott. We're waiting for.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and County Board members. I appreciate the opportunity to present for you tonight. What we're looking at is as was written in a letter, the extension of County Highway W, as well as the improvements to the intersections of 83 and 175, 83 and S and 175. What we're looking at is that if you look on the map that's up there, and I'm going to use the screen up here, that traffic is moving from Hartford in the lower left-hand corner here, the pink, I lost my marker, lower left-hand corner in the pink, going over to West Bend or Allenton. Not a great way to get there right now. They can go up 83, as mentioned, K up 41. Now you're kind of backtracking to go, you're going east on K, back to the northwest on 41, or you're going K all the way over to 144 up to 33, or you're making the movement of 83 to K to 175 to W. Now it's working. K175W, or you're coming up and using 83 to S to W up to 33. If you look at that in the map, not the most efficient way to get from point A to point B, any route that you happen to take. So you see the aerial photo on the right side of coming up 83, you can go down K, back up and up W, or up 83 over to S and back up W. Current geometry at the intersections do not meet state standards, and we deem them as being relatively unsafe. We'll go through some traffic numbers before. Some of the numbers were missed in the letter that was just stated out there. But we'll go through those numbers in a little bit more detail on the crashes that have been occurring here. But you can see the substandard intersections at this location. It's hard to get the vertical aspect of it unless you've happened to drive there. And hopefully you've had the opportunity to drive out there on the site. That when you're coming northbound on 175, you're coming over a hill to get towards County Highway S. When you're coming southbound on 175 to come to 83, again, you're on a curve and on a hill at that location. So there's some definitely geometry issues you're working on there with sight lines and sight distances at these 3 intersections. So I gave this presentation. We did a public information meeting back in March. Gave a similar presentation to the Public Works Committee in March as well. So some of these slides you'll see are the same from those committees. So what we heard before that public information meeting, Washington County is just creating a reliever route for truck traffic. Traffic will greatly increase on County Highway W. Traffic will back up on County Highway W in Allenton. If traffic's backed up, you won't be able to install traffic signals because it's too close to railroad tracks. There's already heavy truck traffic on Highway W, and this will bring even more. Misconception of the reliever route. If you remember, the reliever route was defeated at the county board. Right after that, the county administrator, myself, we sought to end that debate. If you remember, that was one thing that came back years after years to the county as well. We looked at that. We started contacting local municipalities to do jurisdictional transfers. That's where we take county roadways and transfer them over to the local municipalities. And we were very fortunate. We had a lot of willing partners on that. And we actually expanded out to include a town of Aaron and Richfield and stuff like that. And got a really good thing going out there for Washington County. But what we did was we transferred this portion of 83 from Clover Road, that's right by the golf course, down to the city of Hartford, to the town of Hartford. So if trucks want to go on K or W to get to Hartford, they still have to cross a town road to do that, right? Town can then post it, no truck traffic, load post it, whatever they want to do if they saw too many semi-truck traffic using that particular route. So that was given to the town of Hartford for that route. The other roadway that we gave away was the other one was the reliever route was going down Highway K to go out towards Highway U. From 83 to Main Street, we jurisdictionally transfer that to the town of Addison so that traffic can't get from K or 83 out to Highway U, right? They again could post that no truck traffic, load post it, all those kind of things that they could do to that roadway to make that happen. What that did was it created a gap in the highway system, right? That truck traffic can't get from point A to point B without being approved for by the towns to use those routes. Like I said, they can impose a truck traffic, limit truck traffic on those roads if they want. As part of that process, County Highway K was repaved and improvements were made to the intersection at Main Street. It was kind of an ugly intersection there. It was a T intersection, but you could have a right designated turn lane. People on K could not stop and go south. A little bit dangerous. We had a lot of crashes in that intersection as well. Before we turned it over and give the town the problem, we actually decided to fix that problem for the town. And I think it worked out really nice at that intersection. I really opened up the sight lines at that and created a true T intersection there. State Highway 83 to Clover Road was transferred to the county, was transferred from the county to the town, but the county is going to maintain that road for the town for 10 years. We put a chip seal and crack fill on that already to help them maintain it. We're plowing that roadway, so you'll see the county plow trucks from 10 years from 2018 or when we started that agreement going forward. So you'll see some county out there mowing operations, litter pickup, stuff like that. We'll do on that stretch of roadway. And as part of that, payments were made to the towns. So you might see another jurisdictional transfer coming up going, well, what's the benefits to the town? Well, the benefits of town is, number one, is the state aid for towns is computed by the mileage that they have. That's very key. The more mileage they have, the more state aid they get for road constructions. The county state aid has no mileage configured in there. So our state aid does not go down. The town state aid goes up. So the county in general gets more state aid for the roads as the county in general, just by making that transfer. The other piece of the puzzle of that is that the tax levy then, so if we spend about $11,000 a mile on maintenance a year, that $11,000, the county levy goes down $11,000 and a town levy can move up $11,000 to do that. So not only does their levy go up, their transportation aid goes up, but they also then spend a little less money on the roadway they do, and we gave them a check to take the roadway. So that's kind of where you see the win-win situation on a jurisdictional transfer of a roadway going from a county to a town. Then we got the misconception of increased traffic. Knowing that what I say sometimes doesn't hold a whole lot of weight, I contacted our Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. They've been doing traffic modeling for Southeastern Wisconsin for decades. They've got the whole system modeled. I asked them, what's this traffic impact going to be if we do this extension? What's it going to look like? According to Sewer Pack up there, they ran the model with the proposed change to the highway network and has indicated that the impact associated with the realignment of W will be very local. That means they're not getting trips from Heartland going all the way up to West Bend, right? It's the local trips, county to county trips that this would be taking. They'll use 83 S to W. They didn't anticipate any new trips were expected in this whole use of a W corridor going into Allenton, right? The increase in the traffic only occurs on Highway W between 175 and S. Remember, everybody else is going up 83, going over S and back to north. This is where that impact would be in just that little short stretch to the south there, right? So no, not a whole lot of extra traffic going through there. Now, we'll talk later about that. I think traffic will increase a little bit. It does not indicate an increase in traffic in Allenton due to the extension, right? You can imagine if you're going that route right now, you go the route in the future, right? It's not like all of a sudden we're going to get 3,000 more cars going, well, that little extension's in, I'm going to go that way now, right? Obviously, you'll get more traffic increases just through the years. If you live in Washington County, as more development happens, that more traffic is going to happen on those roadways. That's why I said most county traffic highways has increased over the decades. And we definitely anticipate that trend to happen. Traffic's not anticipated to back up in Allenton due to the extension. I contacted the DOT, said, hey, it's 33, it's your roadway, you're familiar with Allenton and railroad tracks. Can we put signals in there? Because we are pretty close there. According to the DOT, it should be possible to coordinate traffic signal with the railroad crossing with proper railroad interconnect and track clear timing for a traffic signal. So it can be done that close. If you've been down to Richfield on Holy Hill Road, right? You have a traffic signal by the new Quick Trip relatively close to the tracks as well. Not as close as this, but relatively close as well that you can actually manage that system going together. So let's look at some numbers. This information comes right from the DOT. They do traffic counts for the whole state of Wisconsin. These were not done by Washington County. What you see on the right-hand side over here is 144, which comes up to 33. On the left-hand side, you'll see Highway W come up to 33. You'll see, I think that says 2,900 vehicles a day on Highway W. You've got about 3,800 a day on 144. Again, at 10 to 12,000 traffic on 33, and about 12,000 in Allenton. That intersection over there, if you're familiar with that, and I'll show you a picture of it in a second, you have 4 lanes of traffic over there, high speed, 55 miles an hour, that's in that area. And you got about 1,000 more cars a day going into that intersection. There's no traffic signals there. There's no roundabout there, right? That intersection functions properly. Also, if you look at that intersection, it's got a through movement, right? You can go through the intersection north, or you can make a turn movement to the left. The one in Allenton at Highway W, which we're currently reconstructing, will have a designated right turn lane. You'll see that there's no crossing movement here. Sorry about that. I better put my glasses on so I hit the right button.
Remind me later.
Yep. Thank you, Ashley. So you'll see most traffic that is coming to Allenton, again, based on that, making right-hand turns. People that are coming up 175 and want to go out to the west towards Horicon are going to continue up on 175, not come up Highway W and take a left-hand turn to go there. That left-hand turn movement, a lot of people that are coming from Zerns, local traffic, fire department, Farmers Inc., stuff like that are making potentially that left-hand turn. But predominantly that traffic's making that right-hand turn at this intersection. Just as seeing that, same thing up at 144, designated right-hand turn lane for those making a right-hand turn. A through left movement up there. Again, a wide open intersection, but again, 55 miles an hour and people coming, over the hill there. So that's where I say that you're not going to have a lot of traffic congestion coming in Allenton. They got an intersection that's very similar to it, a couple miles away, 1,000 more cars, and you don't see a need for traffic signals, roundabout, and stuff like that at that particular intersection. Increasing of truck traffic. I do, anticipate traffic to increase over the years. I've said that before, any county highway, if you look from traffic projections from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they've been increasing. County highways are designated for truck traffic, believe it or not. We design them specifically for that. We look at percentage of truck traffic to make sure that the asphalt and the gravel and stuff is thick enough to make sure they can handle that traffic. I don't see a whole lot of truck traffic that's going to get off of Highway 33, go down to Allenton, wait at the tracks, go up and down the hills on W just to get to Hartford. And if there are a lot, then the towns can stop that if they want, right? If that does happen or does become an issue, whether they're going Highway K or Highway W. Truck traffic usually partners with more local commerce. If Zerns is heading to Hartford a little more times a day with a couple more trucks, I think that's a good thing, right? If Maysteel opens up a secondary plant next to them or some other industrial park comes next to Maysteel and delivers more cars or more trucks, that's a good thing. That means the economy is going in the area. We're creating jobs, stuff like that. At some point in the future, there's a gravel pit right off of Highway W and Deer Road. At some point, and I don't know how long, but that will actually, run out of gravel at some point, and then that less traffic just by time passing by. Now, why is this back? It came back 2 years ago, got defeated twice, and we're bringing it back again. As stated in the letter earlier, and now crashes are still happening at the intersections of 83, 175, and County Highway S. The current routing of traffic is not the most efficient travel route. I can't stress that enough. This is not just about safety. It's also about creating efficient flow of traffic in Washington County. We'll talk about drivers and their driving habits. And the county board votes last time. It wasn't like it was far off. It was a 16-9. It needs 18 votes, right? 2/3 majority for that. So it wasn't like it got defeated 1-25. It was actually pretty close in both of those votes. Let's give you a little history. You'll see on the right-hand side and left-hand side some options that were discussed back in 2018 and 19. I realize not a lot of you were here at that time, so I decided, well, let's show what some of the options were there at that time. On the left-hand side were 3 options. Again, the most efficient option being the green, but taking up obviously the most farmland. The next option was blue, or light blue or cyan. That was at a 55-mile-an-hour curb. And then the last option was the magenta option that you see right here, and the one that's very similar to what you see today going forward, which would impact the least amount of farmland. You'll see on the right-hand side, up at the intersections of S and 83 and 175, we looked at options of cul-de-sac in that roadway and putting some curves in. Not a lot of people liked that option, especially the subdivision people that lived up in that area. And so that was one of the options we looked at early on and going, well, that really doesn't fit real well. And the public said that's not what they were looking for. So we came up with the different configurations for those intersections. Intersection safety analysis. So Washington County, if you're not familiar, hopefully you are, you've had a chance to look at our website, the Highway Department's website. We did a complete intersection safety analysis on all of our county controlled intersection in 2019. And we looked at crashes from 2013 to 2017. You point out in your packet online, we actually included those crashes that were there, but also the crashes that had happened since that location. If you're interested, if you type in, traffic crashes in Wisconsin, there's actually a website you can go to and look up the crashes for yourself as well. So you don't have to take my word for it. You can go to that website and find those out. So we analyzed at that time all 472 intersections at our county. County recently reviewed the intersections of S and 83, 83, 175, 175 and S. If you combine all those intersections together, just to look at that to say, all right, if we combine those all together and fixed all 3 of them, that actually, you put all 3 of those together, it ranks in the top 10 of total crashes in the county as far as intersections are concerned. The intersection of 83 and S, which wasn't mentioned in the letter, actually ranks in the top 10 in crash severity. So there's total number of crashes, which when you have intersections with a lot of traffic volume, and that's like on County Highway Q, right down in Germantown and Menominee Falls, that has a lot of crashes, but they're not very severe. A lot of fender benders down there, right? When you have 30,000 cars a day and they're rear-ending each other, very similar like Highway 33 here in West Bend. There are a lot of crashes down there, but they're not very severe. So we looked at those traffic safety intersection analysis, we looked at total number of crashes, ranked them that way. We ranked the severity of them, right? How severe are those crashes when they're happening? Are the people killed, severely injured? What's happening in those crashes? But then we looked at the crash rate too, right? Knowing how many cars are coming through that intersection and how many crashes are occurring per like million cars through that intersection. So if you look at the intersection of S and 175, it ranks in the top 20 in total amount of crashes. And I got the numbers here. So again, they're highlighted that if you combine them all together, you're at the top 10. That's right in the middle tier right there. If you're looking at 175 and S, total number of crashes was 9 total number of crashes at the intersection. Again, much more down on County Highway Q, as we mentioned earlier. But you still had 9 crashes. So you can see not too far from the top 10 when you're talking 472 intersections. Then you see also how we ranked them with crash rate as well as crash severity. Down there, that's when you lump them together. We did individuals, so 9, 22, and 19 for that particular intersection. Now you go on to 83 and S. Don't be fooled by the first column. That's total number of crashes still. But you'll see that the crash severity rank is number 9. I didn't resort them on you. I wanted to make sure you kind of saw where they kind of fell. But in the analysis in the paper, we actually resort those columns for every one so you can kind of see where the top 9 ranks, stuff like that. But you'll see the ones even above this that have more crashes, but they're not as severe crashes, right? So you're looking at these kind of things, and we have done a lot of research on those crashes and how are they occurring and what kind of crashes. Are they head-on? Are they angle crashes? All that kind of stuff actually has been looked at and reviewed. And last and not least is the intersection 175 and 83 is down here. Again, only had 2 crashes in that time. I picked that time zone because it matched up with this data, right? I could have picked the crashes from 18 to 21 or whatever it was, but I wanted to make sure we're comparing apples to apples, right? We had included those in reports. If you look at the crash rates are very similar to what's happening in those years, all right? Not too far off. So intersection safety. How do we accomplish this with this plan? Well, number one is we're looking at vacating the roadway from S to 83, basically eliminating this intersection. So you can basically drop that down to a 0 because the intersection doesn't exist anymore. One thing we're looking at doing is creating this into a T intersection, a private driveway, either going up to the tavern and the guy's got a shed in the backyard for that purpose, but basically creating S as a through movement now. Right now, people are coming across here and turning movements, right? A lot of turning movements in front of that. With this, with moving the traffic out to Highway W, you decrease the traffic that's up here, and you allow S as a through turning movement, the through movement going this east-west. That's most of the way the traffic is going. If they want to go to Hartford in the back end, Highway U is just to the west of this location. They can utilize that depending on where they're going. Then also the realignment of the intersection of S and 175. And so we're looking at that as to be respectful of the homes that are in the area too. We couldn't get that angle back to a perfect 90. So we're at what the DOT in their facility development manual is the minimum. So about a minimum. So it's about I think it's right around 60 degree, 70 degree angle instead of a 90 degree angle. Plus, as I mentioned before, it's not perfect because you still have this hill that you're coming over in that location. We did look at a roundabout at the intersection. Any guesses on how much a roundabout costs? How much? $2 million. $2 million for a roundabout. So just kind of get to eye. So we did look at that when you look at a roundabout cost, we're putting one on Q and Hillside, $2 million for a roundabout. So we did look at those modifications, but again, you're still, S1 still has limited sight lines and not quite perfect geometry. We know intersections. We've looked at intersection studies before. We've done intersections here. I'll point to some of them that we've actually improved the geometry on those intersections and sight distances. I just mentioned County Highway K and Main Street a little while ago. County Highway D and Nana Road, if you've been up in the town of Wayne, was terrible for sight distance. We just moved Highway D up there, also impacting some farmland. And by doing that, we created a much safer intersection up there. If you happen to chance to drive that Highway D, which we just did last year, I highly encourage you to take a look at that roadway. We're really happy the way that turned out. Intersection sight distances on County Highway K, by K and Aurora Road, making sure you can see better. D and N Road, as I mentioned. County Highway P and County Highway C, just north of the village of Jackson, we did. 145 and Mayfield Road. I know Supervisor Galitz isn't here tonight to say, but that's actually Pioneer Road, is now State Highway 145. It's also asked, you got roads there already. Well, Pioneer Road was there already. If you drove in Pioneer Road before I reconstructed it, it was awful. Potholed up and down, raveled, right? We took the hills down, raised up the valleys a little bit, got rid of a stop sign there. made it a two-way stop versus a four-way stop to increase efficiencies out there. Much improved. Turn lanes and bypass lanes. If you've driven County Highway K between St. Lawrence and 41, we increased turn lanes, bypass lanes. County Highway P, we added those. County Highway D, FD, and then 145 and Mayfield Road as well. All safety. So why geometric improvements and sight distance are the key improvements? Well, we look at our population in Washington County, like much of the nation, we have an aging population. We want to make sure those sight distances are as much and far as much as we can. We have distracted drivers, believe it or not. I wish we didn't, but it's also for the safety of the person that's actually sitting at the intersection looking to make sure they can see, hey, that person's not stopping, right? It's very important to be looking at that. Obviously, we have speeding drivers, right? 55 means 64, right? Washington County, right? So even though we're supposed to have 55, they might be going a little faster. And unfortunately, we have impaired drivers as well in Washington County. All too often, you'll see with drugs or alcohol, people getting pulled over for OWIs and DWIs. We have that in the county. So to get those sight lines so people that are obeying the traffic laws can see the others that are not obeying the traffic laws is very important. That person coming over the hill at 175 going 90 miles an hour, if you can see that person and you're down on W extension and can see that person and not pull out is very important. As I tell my kids when they're learning to drive, it doesn't matter if you're right, if you're dead. You wait for them. So we brought this forward to the subdivision residents and said, oh, how does this impact them up in the right-hand corner? With our current Highway W project, we're having better sight lines there. If you pull out the intersection again, we increase the sight lines over there, better vertical alignment. W at Limestone Creek will get turn lanes and bypass lanes. S and 175, again, right here in this location, again, we're adding turn lanes and bypass lanes, right? Letting your people get out of the lane of traffic, right, to make your turns more safe, right? Or if you're making a left-hand turn, 175 north to left-hand turn, letting that person go around you, right? A lot of impatient drivers I didn't mention earlier that are out there too, that don't care about passing zones, no passing zones, and they want to get from point A to point B. And if you can get out of the way a little bit quicker is important. Again, S175 will have an improved alignment, not perfect, not great sight distance to the south. S and 175 will have less traffic. And that's what I'm going to get to in the second part of it, is by getting the traffic away from these intersections, even though they're vastly improved, still not perfect, get them to a more perfectly geometrical intersection is important out there. That's one of the reasons that we're looking at doing this. Again, let more efficiency. So you look at efficiencies here and going, all right, how is this more efficient, right? The traffic on S is obviously more efficient. W is more efficient. The people that are coming down 175 to W is just nearly as efficient. So you look at the efficiency part of this, it's very critical that you include both parts of this program going forward. Has Washington County done this in the past? You bet. Dozens of times. I put a few examples in here, and if you look around the county and go back to the 70s and 80s, how much work was done by our predecessors, it's amazing. You look at a lot of the county highways, H up by Kewaskum. You know, you look at the old maps. I highly encourage you to look at the GIS maps. The pictures go all the way back to 1941. Look at the roads the way they were. People that are younger don't remember what they were years ago. So I'll pick on this one. Not too long ago, 1990. I picked that because that's the year I graduated high school. This is Highway NN and M up in the town of Trenton and town of Jackson. You look at that configuration versus this one. This was fine. The roads were there. It was functioning. But do you think that was functioning well? We looked at other traffic movements. This is County Highway D between Kettle Views, so just northwest of the city of West Bend here. Back in 1970, lower left-hand corner, coming near 90, right? County looked at it and said, no, let's put some nice sweeping curves up in that area, right? Keep the traffic moving, right? That's what a county highway is for, is to move traffic. It's not a local roadway. It's not a subdivision road. It's designed to move traffic safely and efficiently. I love this one. If you're not familiar, this is the east side of Big Cedar Lake. The little dot you see right there is Timbers. And you'll see it over here as well. The road used to come up 90, near 90, about 120 degrees, come up right past Timbers. Parking lot on one side, Timbers on the other, come down here, come up. Now if you're taking that road, NN, nice sweeping curves coming through there. People from Slinger going to Fleet Farm, going to anywhere in West Bend, right? Much safer than it was back then, right? There was a lot of heavy lifting done by previous county boards. Not all these were very popular either. I wanted to talk to the town of Addison, so I picked one that was by them, a little more current, 2005. This is Highway 33 and 175. Again, it used to go through the little hamlet, right? Addison Center. They moved that roadway out there. More efficient, safer for the people that lived in that location, right? If you're familiar with 175 and 33. This one I picked because it was close to one of our public works members. This is County Highway K, south of the city of Hartford. This is Pike Lake in the upper right-hand corner. Highway E comes down and meets Highway K in this location, comes back to the north, sweeps around, comes back up towards Monroe and up towards Highway 60. Kind of get a feel for where we are in the county over there, just south of Pike Lake. The old traffic pattern was come up K, 90-degree turn down Oil Springs, 90-degree up over. 2 roads were there, perfectly good roads, probably not great roads back in 1970, but could have kept them there, right? Roads were in the area to use, not so much. I put in the front desk here, this was a petition that was done in 1972, signed by 503 residents. It read, "We, the undersigned, as daily and part users of Highway K from Highway E, Zola's Tavern," that's actually Little Highway E, just south there about a mile, all the way up to north of Highway 60, petition the Washington County Highway Commissioners to resurface this section of road as soon as possible and also not to relocate portion of this roadway as proposed. Heavy lifting done again back in 1970. 503 residents signed that. That's not a Facebook posting. You can just say, hate it, don't like it, don't do it. That's actually going door to door, getting residents to sign and presenting that. And they realize that, you know what, maybe the traffic isn't there right now, but look at that, it's worthwhile doing it. And now, you think 50 years later, people remember what the road used to look like? We've done efficient traffic movements, as I mentioned earlier. Pioneer Road, right? We removed the 4-way stop. You go to these public informations with me, we were gonna kill people at that intersection, changing from a 4-way to a 2-way. People were gonna die. They were convinced of it, right? The people on that roadway, you think they wanted a wider roadway? No. Right? You go there now and use it, and sometimes it gets used as a bypass when traffic accidents fortunately happen on 41. Much safer roadway. Paved roadway, paved shoulders, a very safe roadway. I mentioned our County Highway D road shift earlier. Highway K, adding turn lanes and bypass lanes, right? Letting those through movements, make those through movements, right? Get the traffic moving. Again, County Highway P, we did those improvements as well. County Highway C we did back 2018, I want to say 2017 maybe. We improved the vertical curve right there, right? Through the hamlet of Cedar Creek, raised the road up about 7 feet. Oh, we're going to kill people, right? You're going to raise that road up. People are going to speed through there. You're going to kill people in Cedar Creek. Not the case. We improved the intersection of Hillside Road as well, at one of our higher intersection crashes. So taking care of those things along the way. Why is this more efficient? It has obviously less stopping movements, right? People that are coming north on 83, instead of going up here, slowing down, stopping, crossing the intersection, even if with the improvements, not as safe as the one that's out here in the open, coming here, stopping, a left-hand turn. Conflict points, right? It's all about conflict points at intersections, right? How many chances do you take, right? You got to cross one person, cross another person. If you're crossing their face, crossing their car, right? T-bone accidents, stuff like that. So it's all about looking at those. Obviously, you could say, yeah, there's less noise from stopping movements, right? You know, the trucks, brakes, and all that kind of stuff going forward. What this does is you're pushing that traffic to a good intersection, good sight lines, 90 degrees, people can see. That's important. Taking people away from the intersections that are not as perfect and getting them to an intersection that is perfect. You get quicker movement from Hartford, Allenton, and elsewhere. What you don't see on here is if you don't do the extension and you do this work, that person that's traveling southbound on 175 that wants to go onto 83 and into Hartford to work, maybe at the hospital, maybe the quad, wherever they're working, well, now that person's traffic just became less efficient. Now they come down here, take a right-hand turn, then take a left-hand turn, again, crossing traffic, even if this is a 3-way stop, right? Still crossing traffic going down. So by not doing this, you make this area maybe not as safe, and you make it less efficient. So you're kind of going backwards by doing that S alone. I've heard that, just do S, just do S. But now you just decrease the efficiency even more in Washington County. So the two are connected. Believe it or not, the Washington County Highway Department, we do pride ourselves on making sure we impact the land as least as possible. We really do. I know you don't believe it, but we are out there every day looking at those roadways. We're doing stuff like minimal land purchases. We're going from zero, Highway K, for instance, we did that roadway, widened it out, right? Added turn lanes. There's 4 lanes of traffic right by Krebs Drive now, right? Turn lanes, through lanes, a middle lane, left lane. That whole County Highway K project purchased 0.89 acres of farmland. The Highway County W road shift we've just been talking about impacted 1.49 acres of farmland. The County Highway D project that we got going on that we just finished up over there. We return tax, but you see the Highway D on the right-hand side. I'll show a little quick video there. That's the old location, right? Coming over the rail tracks, a hill about 9 feet, little S-curve coming back, S-curve coming back. Again, I said that sight distance. Can you imagine sitting here on Enna Road, looking to the right through those trees, trying to see a car coming? See if I can get this to play. So you can kind of see the new roadway coming through here, right? Again, impacting farmland, but we, as you remember, the board just vacated this old roadway. So now this farm field, which was split by the roadway, is now one farm field, less desirable, where the wetland was and wet area here is where we push the road to, right? Being respectful, saying, well, we can put it somewhere, let's put it in your least valuable land, the land that wasn't high value, get it over there, keep your upland, and we replace that roadway. We had lots of topsoil, replace the old roadway. So now this farm field is this area, right? So instead of being divided by a roadway, you got one farm field that's out there for the people to utilize. County Highway M, which you just approved last month, I believe it was, the relocation order, impacted 1 acre of farmland out there. We added curb and gutter to sections out there to make sure we limited the amount of impact to farmland and on the residents. So we are looking at this stuff in detail on the plans at the beginning of the project. How do we do that for the W road? Did we do that for W road? I heard some no's earlier, but we actually did. We looked at the options. We choose the one with the less impact, right? 45-mile-an-hour design speed we looked at. Also hugging the north side of the tree line. You'll saw the previous options went right down the middle of the tree line. We impacted all 4 of these farm fields. This one we looked at saying, let's go to the north of their tree line. We're impacting 1 less farm field. So this rectangular farm field, not being impacted by the new alignment. So by doing that, we actually hopefully increased it by Southeast Field. The area near 175, you'll see this damp area that's out there. Not your most desirable farm field that's out there. Most likely wetland, we haven't had delineated yet. But talking to a farmer, they get some marsh grass off of it every now and then when it's dry enough to do that. Farmlands, the north side of the tree line is usually a little less productive, right? You got the sun that's not shining on it, the tree branches that are out there, stuff like that. So we skirted, again, along the north side of that tree line as much as possible. We had a curb in a turn lane up at the Wendiger farm up here. You'll see the original plan, which is this green one, impacted their land. We had to do some right-of-way purchase up there. We looked at that saying, oh, instead of putting a ditch there, what can we do? Let's put some curb in there. Now we don't have to do any right-of-way taking up in that location. We also looked at steeper side slopes. Instead of going back at 3 to 1, let's tighten those up a little bit. Let's go 2.5 to 1. Our mowers can do a 2.5 to 1 slope. So let's do that. So we saved about 1/10 of an acre by doing that. I know it's not much, but every little bit helps. So looking at doing that, up by Highway S, we added curb and gutter, same thing, to lower the impact of the residents that are up there. We also, as was mentioned in articles, we talked to the owners, at least emailed the owners, about the remnant parcels that are in this corner, We'll touch base on that a little bit more too going forward. Traffic. Again, traffic. Sewer Pack estimates 1,500 less cars a day. I don't know where the turner is. On S between 175 and W. You look at that map, it's 1,700 cars right now. You take the 1,700 minus 1,500, that's only 200 cars using that intersection that are going that through movement right now, or maybe turning movements. That's what I'm talking about, is by reducing the traffic in that area, You're making the intersection safer, less conflicting, constricting points that are there. All right. But that makeup then becomes this little part that is here between 175 and W. That's going to see an increase of cars, right? That 1500 is going to come across the field here and go up this way. So this little stretch is going to see an increase in traffic. This goes way down in traffic, and this stays the same, right? So you got the two residents that live right near this intersection that are right here, but that's when you're in the curve. So you're not talking to 55-mile-an-hour people going by anymore, right? People are going to have to go slow during that area because they got to have a curve to slow down to get to 175. Again, that increase in traffic volume is very similar to the traffic volume that's on K and Aurora Road. I put that on there so people kind of get a feel for what's that traffic like. Well, if you're new where Garing's Meat Market is, so they can kind of get a feel for, oh, that's what the traffic will look like, right? Oh, that's not so bad. I stopped there. I can get in another driveway. It's not that terrible. So make sure we're using local examples that people can look at. What are the impacts? Yes, 11.48 acres of land acquisition, most of it being farmland, a $2.6 million construction cost estimate after 30% plans. Again, no impact on the county property tax levy. If you looked in there, we're looking at using the funds that we got received from the state of Wisconsin. Those funds were not earmarked by the state of Wisconsin. They didn't say, Washington County, you have to use that for any particular purpose, right? They were not earmarked for any particular purpose for Washington County. Things that get lost are, it's a faster emergency response time. There's no hospital in Allenton. Someone has industrial accident at Zerns, Maysteel, they need to get to the Hartford Hospital. You just decrease traffic time to get there, right, by this thing. So you're helping those first responders get there. A lot of these first responders now in the rural areas have automatic mutual aid, right? The fire departments, right? They go back and they help each other right away because they can't get enough volunteers, right? Maybe gets them there a little bit quicker to your home that might be on fire, right? More efficient access for businesses, their employers and customers. You look at Allenton, right? Farmers Incorporated, getting people there, right? And those can certainly be farmers, right? The grain mill, getting those farmers to the grain mill, right? A little bit quicker, a little bit safer, right? Versus having to cross three things with their wares. Now they can get there and cross one nice place, safe area, right? So all those businesses, getting their employers there, right? Getting more customers. Maybe Zerns gets a little more customers coming from Hartford then, right? To look at there because they can get there a little bit safer and quicker. They don't have to take chances out there. You're also creating more efficient movements for 1,500 vehicles a day. 1,500 a day. Not just 1,500 a month, not 1,500 this year, but 1,500 a day, right? You could make the case that there's less wear and tear on efficient movements, right? You're only braking once versus those, so you can make a financial there. A pretty weak argument, but you got the three safer intersections as a result. When we look at funding, we look at the costs, right? What does it cost when there's a fatality? What does it cost when disabling? The DOT looks at these numbers when they say, what should that roadway be improved or not? Should that intersection be improved or not? So it's like, is it worth the 2.6 million? Is it worth the $450,000 to do this? So you look at the rates that are put there. Again, it's not our numbers. I didn't put those together. National Safety Council put those together based on the wage, productivity loss, medical expenses, just based on one crash. So you add those kind of numbers up going, yeah, what's our return of investment on that? So obviously a $2 million project, if you save one fatality, you're pretty much almost all the way there on that type of a project. All right, let's talk land, right? That's what we're here to discuss tonight anyway. So what kind of impacts are we looking at? So let's just start at the east end here. The Weniger farm that you see in the upper right-hand side, owned by the Wenigers, operated by Garing since the 1980s. We're looking at 4 acres of impact at that location there. Plus, we did talk about, as mentioned earlier, the remnant parcel, about 2.5 acres in the lower right-hand corner here that's left behind. Certainly can talk to the landowners about that. We will. We'll talk about agricultural impact statement in a minute and what that means. I did contact the town of Addison and say, is that a buildable site? What if they want to build it? Can they build on it? The answer is yes. It's a build site, 2.5 acres out in the town of Farmington, town of Addison, R2 development. There's about 1.25 acres inside the building envelope, right? The area that you can build. So plenty of room for a house that's in that location. The other one on the left-hand side, so you got the Geller farm up here, about 2.5 acres of land up in that stretch of the woods. And then again, from the Garing Stonehouse Dairy, about 3.5 acres. Again, but you can certainly add the 0.72 acres onto that of the remnant parcel. It's kind of down in a hole. I certainly agree with the Garings. It's probably not a lot of use and certainly something we can explore of purchasing that from them as well. You'll see a little triangle that was on the original plan. We definitely probably use that. We think that DNR is going to require some stormwater management out there besides just the normal roadside ditches. So we're looking at reserving that little triangle there. But certainly, I mean, that's what the agricultural impact statement is for, is to start having those conversations with the landowners as far as that's concerned. Project process and timeline. So back in the first week of February, I actually personally phone called the 4 residents that we just mentioned up there and talked to them to let them know that this was coming back. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that there was phone call being made before this went out. Town of Addison went to there on February 18th to introduce the project to them. On March 3rd, we took it to the Washington County Traffic Safety Commission. They actually unanimously approved the project. You ask yourself, there's a Traffic Safety Commission? Who's on that? So that includes the Washington County Sheriff, our district attorney, a state trooper, the state DOT engineer. There's 3 citizen members, and the State Bureau of Traffic Safety liaison is on there. Then we went and had on March 16th, we had a public information meeting. Heard a lot of like, we should have a public hearing on this. If you've ever been to a public hearing before, people stand on the podium right there, they speak, but they don't get answers. Public information meeting, I stand up there for as long as it takes, however long it is there, and I give a presentation. I take as many answers back. I take as many questions as they want. I sit up there and answer them all night long. We have the plans out there. We have comment sheets available to them when they come into the meeting. When they leave, they can email them to us to provide those written comments. You'll see when a lot of people do a public hearing, they write down their comments. So they're going to write them down anyway. Write them down, get them in writing to everybody. Those comments have been included in the packet to the Public Works Committee, as well as in your packet tonight. All those are included and for your reference and review. The Town of Addison meeting, we took it to the Town of Addison. They didn't vote on it, right? But the town chairman did endorse the project out there, but they did not vote on it. I was there. I know I don't get trusted, but Supervisor Krebs was there, as well as Supervisor Schleif. And if you have questions about how that meeting went, and you certainly could ask them, and they can provide you a pretty good explanation versus me. I think it was very positive, but you can ask them their opinion on that meeting. We took it to the Public Works Committee on March 24th as a discussion item. We didn't rush it through. We didn't take it right to the committee and go, let's vote on this, let's get it through. We took it as a discussion item, right? Giving the people a chance to actually look at it. I think we actually even got one more comment right after that meeting. That's in your packet. Obviously, then we took it to the April Public Works Committee as an action item. Then, of course, we're here tonight to discuss the project as far as funding, road renaming, right-of-way plat relocation and stuff. After this, what's next if it does get approved? Well, we certainly love to talk jurisdictional transfers of road vacation to Town of Addison, right? That little stretch where the W kind of takes a curve up to S. We'd love to talk to the Town of Addison. They're aware of it. They know we want to talk to them about potentially transferring that portion of the roadway over to the town, right? Maybe even that area of Highway S between 175 and W, which now goes down to 200 cars a day. Perfect town road for them. They can do Deer Road, go all the way to S, makes our plowing operations better and hopefully theirs too. So it's something that we want to do. Obviously, we need to complete our design reports, right? We're still a couple years away from getting this thing built. We do the environmental, historical, archaeological, the agricultural impact statement, land acquisition, utility locations, right? All before construction starts in 2023. Project process and timeline. Might have been mentioned that, you know, they didn't mention anything about the agricultural impact statement, but if you look at my report to the Public Works Committee, it was mentioned in the report to the Public Works Committee. That same quote that you see up there, talking to Zach Zopp at DAPCAP, he agreed that, well, why don't you wait to do it? We got to pay for that report to DATCAP. It's not a free report. We got to give them a lot of information, a lot of staff time. And if you don't want to approve the project, I don't want to spend a lot of my time and staff time doing a report, right? That we know we got to do. But what that does is, what's the main purpose of that report? The agricultural impact statement analyzes the economic impact on individual farms, identifies the acreage potentially lost or affected, which you have, and conveys landowner concerns, right? If anybody's received a phone call or email, right, you've heard landowner concerns. We're here. I'm in my office most days. I'm willing to listen. I've reached out to them. I've emailed all of them. And like I said earlier, called and talked to them on the phone. So we already have that. So you look at those, a lot of agricultural impact statements, and they're online. You can certainly look at them. A lot of them are done by the DOT, larger ones, and the communication isn't there. We do kind of pride ourselves a little bit on communication. We are local people and want to make sure that the voices are being heard. And obviously that may be useful in negotiation between the landowner and initiator. More importantly, according to state statute, is designed to be informational and advisory document. Describes and analyzes the potential effects and proposed project on agricultural operations, agricultural resources, but it cannot stop the project. Right? But as part of that process, we'll discuss options with the landowner of potentially improving or possibly acquiring farmland, right, for them, of nearby farmland. I did have a conversation with one of the landowners early on in the process. They didn't want to talk about it in great depth and detail, but we're going to have a lot of topsoil left over. Is there a low area? Is there an area that maybe is lacking a little topsoil on top of the hills, that we can maybe put back for them, make it more productive farmland? We're going to have some overburden, right? The layer of soil right below the topsoil that we can utilize for that purpose as well. We want to work with them to make sure that that happens, right? Maybe there's an area we can tile. Maybe there's an area that's wooded now that's looking at going, well, it's wooded, but if you take the wood out there and stump grind and put that nice couple feet of topsoil, that farmer might be more beneficial. We're willing to talk about that with DATCP and say, what are the options out there? I don't mind getting creative, not at all. What were those public information meeting results? You'll see in your packet, we sent it out to 71 individuals, businesses or agencies, homes. We had 36 people sign the roster sheet. Now, some of those were town officials as well. So there's a handful of those out there. Of that though, we received only 14 comments back submitted. And those 14 comments were submitted by 11 individuals. 11 were negative of those 14, but 3 were positive. If you're at that public information meeting, I know a couple of you were, about midway through or so, a lady got up and actually handed out the comment forms. They were at the front desk when they came in. They were at the desk when they could leave, but she got up and made sure she handed everybody a comment form. So everybody had it. They could have put simply, hate it, no, don't do it, and put it in the box. But she had 2/3 walked away without even writing a comment down. Just something to think about. Planned connectivity. Again, the old adage, just do Kiowa Highway S. You don't need the extension. All right, by doing that, you're going to be losing that efficient traffic movement from 175 to 83, as I mentioned. So we're going backwards. We want to create efficient roadways, effective roadways. Doing that and that alone, you now created those people that are coming south on 175, making that turn less efficient. You're not increasing the efficiency on W by doing that. So no efficiency gain by going from Hartford to Allenton or beyond. Those people going from Hartford to West Bend still have to go through the rigmarole going up Highway 83 and stopping, going up the hill on W, stopping, crossing traffic. Again, remember those turning movements, those conflict points. Imagine yourself driving. All right, you make a right-hand turn off of here. Now you got to stop, look both ways. Limited sight distance, maybe not perfect alignment, but better. Coming up here, stopping again, looking both ways, crossing traffic. Traffic coming south, you got to cross them, driver's side, right, to make that turning movement. All right. The safety improvements relies on limiting traffic at the 175 and S. Remember, if you take 1,500 cars a day out of this intersection instead of, I don't have 200 cars coming that way versus 1,700 and get them down to an intersection that is designed for it at 90 degrees and great sight distance, you're automatically improving safety at the things. By leaving this too, we'd have to probably install rumble strips up there because people are used to going on 83 and flying through that area, right? I don't know how many people would love rumble strips right next door to them, but that's also one thing we haven't brought forward to those people. We also have the road naming of the existing 83 up here as well that we'd have to, and your packet as far as make sure we're naming it correctly. And on the right-hand side, probably an important note, you heard maybe my voices aren't being heard. That standalone project, that wasn't discussed at a public information meeting as standalone. When I stood up there and talked to those people that were there that night and sent out that letter to those 71 people, it was the entire project. Changing that tonight, those people, those voices, they're not being heard then. I did talk to this landowner that's at this intersection right here. He was gone on vacation, or excuse me, out of town anyway, assuming vacation. He came back, I missed it. Can you explain it to me? I explained it to him, said, yep, you know what? You got 1,500 less cars in front of you and 900 less cars on that side. He was happy as a clam. Do you think he'd be as happy as saying, yeah, we changed your mind. Those 1,500 cars are back and we're going to add another 800 to it. And guess what? He wasn't here with a sign to talk about that. Let's talk a little land use. You might be familiar with this area. I mentioned a little bit before. County Highway K, Wildlife Road, 1990. I grew up in St. Lawrence, not too far from here. I remember what this used to look like. Now today, the county does not create the traffic, but we must accommodate for it safely, efficiently, and effectively. But not only for today, but into the future. Yes, we are definitely impacting their ag land forever, no doubt about it. But you're also impacting those 1,500 cars or more day forever as well. Again, right? Looking at that kind of long term, right? Looking at the future. Yeah, there's some heavy lifting. Not going to deny that. Not at all. But you know, we don't create that. Now we got to create 4 lanes out there. Again, very respective, only 9/10 of an acre that we had to take for this to make sure that that happened, right? But the county doesn't do the land divisions, right? That's all on the local level, right? If you look at the recent developments that were done, I'll pick on the months of last month in April. You look at the land use committee, they approved a subdivision off of up in the town of Trenton that had 14 acres of farmland that was taken up. Not a lot of people there for that 14 acres that was going to be taken up by residential. No safety involved, no efficiency involved, just more traffic for someone else to take care of. Our Public Works Committee took an action item up and down in Germantown. 50-acre development, all farmland right now. They needed a second access. Germantown would not let them do development unless they got a second access. They went to the Public Works Committee and got that access approved, unanimously approved. And that's 50 acres of farmland that was utilized. You might not realize it, but you do this not on a daily basis, but government at the local level, city level, and county level are impacting those. And I know they're here, they know it, right? But we have to accommodate for those extra vehicles that are put in that roadway out there. Either way you look at it, you're kind of the last step of the process, in the process, whether it was brought forward first by the county or brought forward first by a private developer. Now, what you've all been waiting for. I probably got to get a new slide. It's Grill the Commissioner. It's my attempt at humor as much as I can. But I still want to turn it back over to Chairman.
Before we get going, I'm going to offer an amendment to the 2021-26 capital improvement plan. It'll be adding a further resolved. Be it further resolved that the extension of County Trunk Highway W shall not commence until the county receives non-county funding in excess of 50% of the total cost of the project or 2026, whichever is sooner. I'll look for a second. Second by Supervisor Bossert. Any discussion? Discussion on the amendment?
I had buzzed in before the amendment. Could you please reread that for the board again for us to
Okay.
consider?
Be it further resolved that the extension of County Trunk Highway W shall not commence until the county receives non-county funding in excess of 50% of the total cost of the project or 2026, whichever is sooner. Any further comments? Supervisor Conrath to the amendment.
To the amendment, I guess, no, but I didn't get an opportunity to adjust
By,
the agenda.
pardon?
I did not get the opportunity to adjust the agenda.
You would be out of order to do that.
Okay, yeah, I had you were going to give me a chance. You said initially that I was out of order when we were doing the consent agenda, and
Attorney Stern,
that did not
explain
happen.
the procedure.
A motion to amend the agenda for the county board is going to always be out of order, and the reason for that is because pursuant to Robert's rules, you can only make a motion to amend an agenda if an agenda has been adopted. Our county code does not call for the amendment, for the adoption of our agenda, because our county code sets forth the order of business for the county board. And pursuant to Robert's rules, when your procedural rules set forth the order of business, there is no motion to adopt an agenda. So that's why it's out of order at any time.
Okay, you could speak to the amendment if you like. Okay. Supervisor Bossert. Not the amendment. Supervisor Bishop.
This is to the amendment. Technically, you already have the funds, so that's without a point. So by moving it to 26, you're automatically putting it on. So I will not support this amendment.
Thank you. Any further discussion? You need to have the. Whoops.
Okay. The amendment is stating, be it further resolved that the extension of County Highway W shall not commence until the county receives non-county funding in excess of 50% of the total cost of the project in 2026, whichever is sooner.
Supervisor Goddard.
Yes, thank you. You know, by voting for this, you are voting to give funding to Highway W by 2026. So think of that. You're giving that right for them to do it by that time or sooner if 50% of the money is there. They're bypassing the vote on Highway W and doing it this way. Thank you.
Supervisor Schleif.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's clarify that. Will we vote again in 26 or will it go?
No, we won't vote again in 26.
Okay.
We'll be approving it by 2026, or if there's funding available, that's non-county funding, non-levy money, then we could do it sooner.
Okay. I'll say a couple things that I was going to say. Scott made some good points on the public information meeting and the subsequent town board meeting 2 nights later. When we went through this whole thing 2 years ago, twice, and everybody says it didn't pass. Well, it passed, but we have a self-imposed 2/3 majority that we need to pass to spend money. I don't know of any other counties that do that. So if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be here. That road would be being built along with W now. But when we did that, and there was an impressive show just like now, good job showing up. It's good to see constituents. But when we went to the meetings, well, let's go back. 2 years ago, when it was all done and it failed by one vote because of the 2/3, I said, I was a little disgusted with some of my constituents because it was a good, not constituents, other supervisors, because it was a good thing. We had some people flip-flopped and bowed to pressure, and you got to vote your conscience. So we'll go with that. But I went to the meetings, and like Scott said, a lady tried to pass out, and I saw people take the sheets, write nothing on them, and put them back on the table when they went out. And there were positive, there were 3 positive, there were 11 negative. I went to the town meeting 2 nights later, and 3 people talked against it, and 1 talked for it in the audience. This is I'm all due respect, this is a lot of noise. And how many people out there would be for this, would use this? We never know. So,
Thank you.
and as far as the farm thing, my great-grandfather homesteaded our farm in 1865. My father died early this year. My mother's selling the farm. The closing is a month from yesterday. But it's still going to be farmed. The person, the neighbor that's been renting it for over 25 years is going to buy it, and he's going to continue to farm it. So all this emotion about losing farms, I don't buy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, please. Please, say, can we save it, please? Thank you. Supervisor Krebs,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is to the amendment still.
pardon?
We're
We're
Still-
on the amendment.
We're still on the amendment. 2 items about the amendment. I spoke with the 2 out of the 3 affected landowners. Better? Oh,
Yep.
boy.
Hear you.
I spoke with 2 out of the 3 affected property owners today and brought up this amendment to them. And it was deemed that they're not interested in it. They thought this would be worse than actually building the road immediately. So for that, I will not be supporting this amendment.
Thank you. Supervisor Conrad to the amendment.
Yes, just in response to Supervisor Schleif, those 14 comments only by the people, they truly did not think that this would pass and come to this county board meeting. And they were thinking too that they would be able to have a public hearing for all of us, the final decision makers. That probably impacted the comments and the attendance. And there are also, as you know, working people, a lot of them farmers themselves. So they were waiting for a larger impact here at the Washington County Supervisor meeting, hoping for a public hearing.
Okay.
I spoke to several of them myself.
Thank you. Procedure was followed appropriately, posted appropriately. Everyone had a chance to make comments. Everybody had a chance to be part of the conversation. What's that? Yeah, same process we went through last time. So everyone has a kick at the cat. Everyone has opportunity to speak. Everyone has opportunity to make their, everybody has opportunity to make their, Sorry, Tim. Didn't be- Everyone has a chance to make their concerns known. So I talked to a number of residents and I've talked to, I've taken over 100 phone calls. I've gotten for almost 50 emails. I responded to, I still have to respond back to a couple of the emails because they came in late. But I've talked to most everyone who was either called, left a message or left a message too. And I know these hot button, very emotional things happen. And in our daily lives, a lot of us don't pay attention to some of the things that are happening around us until something else happens and they become aware of it. Some of the postings that have been in one of our local blogs are pretty one-sided. Haven't really informed the public appropriately, to put it mildly. So I'm glad that Scott was able to come back and I asked him to do a very comprehensive presentation to really illuminate and really give the facts, because that's what we're looking at here. It's not a motion that we're voting on. It's not, you know, the I'm not going to say it's not the right word, noise, but it's the distractions that keep us from looking at the facts of the situation. I look at this intersection. My time as a police officer, 30 years. I've investigated fatals. I've investigated very serious injuries on the freeways and on city roads and on county roads. This is an accident. These are accidents waiting to happen. When I read a lot of the accident reports, there was a commonality in so many of them that the vehicle crossed the center line. Well, by the grace of God, there wasn't oncoming traffic, 55-mile-an-hour coming, so there wasn't any head-on accidents that we've had. They've been mostly T-bones. But you know, to not do this project and make this area safer, I liken it to having this big, beautiful oak tree that's sitting in your front yard and it's got a big split down the trunk, and half of the tree is going to fall on your house, and just saying that, well, you know what, I'm going to just take that chance that tree's not going to fall on my house. I'm not going to take corrective action. So when I was a police officer, I took corrective action. We identified problems, we became proactive, and we had to fix the problem. So this is a problem, and I think by delaying it, I think it gives everyone more time to cool off, to think about it. People, one of the things they talked about when I spoke with them, that it was coming too fast. Well, this is time for everyone to just cool off, look at the whole situation, and we move on at that time. This is the final word on it. Further, you know, I'm not going to be here after 2022. Other boards can, with a 2/3 vote, turn it down. They have all the way till 2026 to do it. Or if some other funding becomes available from the state or from the feds, I know the federal money is not to be used for roads at this point, unless something with infrastructure, which I don't know what that's going to be yet. So that's my take on it. Thank you. Supervisor Conrath. To the amendment?
Yes, well, and in response to your comments, I am a nurse. I'm a critical care nurse. I've taken care of those individuals that have come to the hospital and have prayed that that would never be any one of my family members or my son. I've kind of threatened my kids to say, don't you dare do that to me some nights when I've gotten home from work. But we can decrease the dangers, decrease the risk without cutting through the farmland. And by creating that road through the farmland actually creates another intersection. And it's a four-way intersection. Four-way intersections are dangerous. You spoke of that lamb owner who is happy as a clam, who lives in that wedge area of 83 and S. That is my niece. Napier lives there. Shelley Lisa Napier and her husband. Yes, they have one driveway that goes out to 83 and their other driveway goes straight out to S. They, there are other alternatives without creating that road through the Weniger farm, and they are acceptable with that. A four-way stop, lights, working on those other two intersections off of 175. We could even simply dead end S in front of their house, which be very simple to do.
The Supervisor Krebs.
Yeah.
Right?
And I would just like to say too, I am accustomed to, I've served on multiple boards, being able to adjust agendas. And, you know, I had wanted to actually strike these agenda pieces, let you go ahead and present. The county board supervisors, several of us, you know, we're new, yeah, 11 of us, correct? But regardless, we, you know, received this information, you know, last week, Thursday, Friday, through the weekend. Did people properly have time, you know, besides your presentation, to make the right decision? Did people have time to go and walk the land, drive on the land, speak to the landowners, go physically look at it yourselves? Did people have time to respond to the emails and phone numbers, the voices that are now being heard?
I did. I took the time. I've been in the area a number of times. I was at Weniger's farm yesterday to look at everything and speak with them. And I know that water, that area that floods frequently, I know that when corn is grown in a flooded area, corn does not produce, or the yield is much lower, correct? If it's flooded? Yeah, okay. So. Mhm. Okay, all right. I'm gonna go to the next person. Huh? Huh? I have the authority to limit debate, and so I'm gonna let someone else have a little say. I'll come right back to you then. Okay.
Give me a break.
That's wrong.
That's wrong.
Sir, Gonner, you have the floor.
I'm gonna leave the floor, go to Pam, have her finish out what she was talking about. I think this is something important. You brought up the fact of safety and everything else, which is not part of your amended motion here. So the floor is open. So I'm conceding and letting Pam finish hers.
Okay. Supervisor Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. By presenting your motion, your amendment, excuse me, to this motion from your bully pulpit, you have essentially called the question on this resolution. So by doing so, you have, as Supervisor Gonring said, opened to discussion on the entire project. That being said,
No.
I will give what I had
No,
intended to
we're
say.
still, I'm sorry, we're still speaking to the amendment.
You
Once we
did
get
not
done
just
with-
speak to
once
the
we get done with
amendment.
the amendment, then you will speak. can speak
There's
to the-
no resolution left after the amendment.
Turn to the parliamentarian to,
Your resolution is to essentially postpone the project until funding comes in, or the year 2026, whichever is sooner, correct?
Correct.
So that is not the effect of calling the question as I read it. Calling the question means debate ends and you vote on the resolution.
correct.
Then I will say, supervisors, please consider this amendment. A yes vote means you are passing Highway W extension, no questions asked. They're saying they don't want levy money used for this road. There's already planning on using the jurisdictional transfer funds, which is not levy money. So they could start the project tomorrow, technically, with a yes vote on this amendment. There, I stuck to your amendment.
Uh, We tried to observe collegiality and respect to every member. Please continue to try to do so. Thank you. Supervisor Conrath.
Thank you. Yeah, speaking of collegiate, I do appreciate Brian Schmidt. You did put a lot of effort and work into this, and I'm certain, or Scott, I'm sorry, yes, I know your younger brother. He's down in Florida. Sorry. Yes. But, and I'm certain that you feel that this is the right thing, that is your opinion, but also, we have ours. And a concern of mine also is this required agricultural impact study. The rule is if it affects greater than the 5 acres, that has to be done. And you're asking us to approve this before one of those is actually done, which is concerning to me. And you also said that you cannot stop the project even if one of those is done and the results of that.
Right. The process, again, it was started in the 1970s, right? Because the state was going through, or municipalities were going through, just doing projects right behind the scenes, right? Here you got the public. Imagine a state project, they don't do all this stuff, right? They just do the project. So they were just running roads through farmlands without ever telling them, right? Until someone knocked on their door and saying, here's an appraiser, we would like to purchase your farmland, right? So what this is, it's so that the farmers or landowners have to communicate with the county, right? That's what it was designed for doing. We've been communicating with them already, right? They're here tonight. That starts the process. The process, again, as I quoted Zach from DACAP, since we don't want to pay for that process, right? To do it first. We know it's going to impact 11.5 acres of farmland. There's no doubt about that, right? As I heard, it was pristine farmland by one of the things, right? So we know what we're impacting. What's being impacted.
I walked the land. It's
correct.
beautiful farmland.
Yep. I used to work on the farm that farmed the Wenigers land, believe it or not, right? So
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it too.
Schellingers.
That yes, that going in, right? Everybody understands that completely, right? You're impacting the 11.5 acres of farmland, right? What they're doing is that communication of like, well, how do we minimize that, right? How do we work to look at it? What do we do with those remnant parcels? What else can we do to help them get other farmland or work those areas, right? That's what it's for, right? We don't do this at the normal process, right? If you don't do the wetland survey now, we don't do the environmental impact statement historical society, right? As far as all of our projects, we have the projects done and ready to go and then say, we got to place that person's well? No way, right? And so there's got to be a process to do this. And that's our processes. And fortunately, and the state agrees with us, right? It's not like we just said, oh, we're not going to do it. We're going to do it. We have to do it. I want to do it, right? I want to work with them and see what we can come up with, right? Be creative out there. There's no reason, to delay this vote tonight just for that report. We know what the impact is going to be.
Yeah, that's one aspect, but I think that would help everyone here to make a better informed decision. It would be worth that, upfront cost to make a better informed decision.
Yes, that's your opinion. Yes,
Yes,
but
it is
yeah,
my
it's your opinion, my
opinion,
opinion,
yeah.
right? I think everybody here knows it's going to impact 11.5 acres of decent farmland. I don't think anybody here thinks differently.
Question for Attorney Stern. Can we call the question on an amendment? Or will calling the question be for the resolution?
You can call the question on the amendment.
I would like to call the question on the amendment then, please.
Second by Supervisor Mahalik. We'll do a Voice vote? On the call, it's on a voice vote and call the question. All in favor? No, it's not the amendment. We're not voting on the amendment. This is just to call the question. It was, yeah, it was, debate was over anyhow, so Brian was the last one in, so, so just a voice vote to end the discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Seeing there's no further discussion, we will call the question. I'll vote on this electronically. Do you need to have the read again? Did we read it one more time?
The amendment states, be it further resolved that the extension of the County Highway W shall not commence until the county receives non-county funding in excess of 50% of the total cost of the project in 2026, whichever is sooner.
Everybody clear? Everybody clear on the amendment? This requires a majority. Yeah, are you ready? I'm not. There we go.
So it fails.
13.
No, it fails 14 no's.
Okay, motion fails. So we'll go back to discussion on resolution 11.
It's 12 to 12 in person, and then we had 2 Zoom no's. The vote total is 12 to 12 for those that are present here in the boardroom. We have 2 that are via Zoom, and they are both no votes to the amendment.
Please. Okay, we will go back to debate on 2021 resolution 11. Supervisor Marquardt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to move to amend the resolution to remove County W extension. So in line 9, delete the County W and word, and in lines 26 and 27, delete the words the extension through along with. And then in line 34, change the dollar amount to read $450,000 and the same in the summary. My reasoning is I see no reason this cannot be split in 2. They're separate entities. And I would propose improving the safety as it lays right now, which is, I think, the majority of the problem. And if the traffic counts and/or accident rate increases in the future, we can always revisit the extension. Thank you.
Do you have that? Oh, do I hear a second? Okay, go ahead. Sorry, let me get John.
I will provide a second for the proposed amendment with some friendly language added. I'll start from the beginning. Just some of this will encompass what he already said, but to make sure we're not missing any. On page 1, line 9 would strike County Road W and. Line 26, strike the extension of County W between state. And then line 27, strike 175 and state 83, along with the realignment of line 34, strike 2,550,000 and replace it with 500,000. Line 35, strike out the extension of County W between State 175 and State 83 and. Line 36, strike out the letter S from projects and add at after project and the vacating of State 83 roadway north of County Road S. Lastly, line 41, strike 2,550,000 and replace with 500,000.
Supervisor Bossert.
So I want to make sure I understand correctly. With this amendment, would the portion of what is now 83 north of S to 175, would that still exist as a highway, or is that still going to be vacated by us?
According to the amendment, it appears to be vacated, correct?
So traffic that wanted to travel down 83 would stay on 175 to S. They'd make approximately a 160-degree right-hand turn. They'd then go about half a mile. Well, is it half a mile, you think, or a couple hundred feet, and then come to a what might be a four-way stop still, or a three-way stop, and then make a 90-degree turn to go south. That's what we're essentially talking about.
The efficiency of the people
Yep.
that are currently making that movement now and
Yeah.
not having their voice being heard, yes. that's
And that
what we're-
would put additional traffic on Highway S, correct?
Yes, and then not only that, but when they're coming back the other way is going to a substandard intersection again at Highway S-175, better than it is now, but still limited sight distance.
So
not a
coming
great
north, they'd go on 83 to S, stop, turn right, go a couple hundred feet. Then they'd have to stop. They'd have to again navigate that 160-degree or whatever it is left turn now and look for traffic both ways at an intersection that doesn't have as good a sight lines. And then they'd be able to travel north on 175.
Yep.
That doesn't sound like a good combination to me. Supervisor Marquardt mentioned doing this and seeing what happens. And I have a concern with that. And I'm going to bring up as an example, I travel Highway 33 east a lot. When you get into Ozaukee County, there's an intersection that's known to be very dangerous there, where Ozaukee County I crosses 33. I had a close call there several years ago. Last fall, I was behind the semi, so I didn't see what happened. But all of a sudden, the semi's slowing up, and then he goes into the oncoming traffic lane, and I see an upside down SUV in front of me. I stopped, and myself and actually a Washington County Sheriff's deputy were the first two people to reach that SUV and make sure the driver was okay. Now, Assembly Representative Robert Brooks has been working for several years to try to get a roundabout put in there, and he's facing a lot of barriers. Culturally in the state and in some counties, and I don't know that this is the case in Ozaukee County, I'm not trying to put trying to impugn them in any way, but definitely at the state level, there's a belief that you don't look at an intersection as dangerous and look at options for remodeling it until people have died. It used to be something they joked about. Now they don't even joke about it. If there hasn't been any fatalities, they don't want to look at that intersection. And I think that's a bad way to look at these things. I think the way we're doing it, where we're looking at our dangerous intersections and we're saying, hey, there's a high probability of a serious accident here. Let's fix this and fix it right. That's the way we need to be going. This less efficient route that's being amended, in my mind, does not make any sense at all we're putting more traffic into a dangerous intersection at Highway S and 175. I think these two have to stay together. And so I would be against the amendment. Thank you.
Supervisor Conrad.
You're speaking of safety again. Actually, by correcting those intersections, improving the sight lines, you could shave down that hill. That would all help improve that safety aspect that you're concerned about. It actually will slow traffic down too. And I had spoken to the landowners right there, and they do support that being done without W being put through the farmland. And like I said, I am a critical care nurse. I've taken care of these individuals at the bedside, and believe you me, if I really thought that this was the wrong thing to do, I would be speaking against it. My niece too, lives right there in the Wedge area and is concerned of accidents. And she is afraid too that, one day when she goes out there, she is going to find somebody dead or have to do CPR, but we can fix that properly with other things without putting that W through. And so it takes, one more minute for somebody to get somewhere. You know what? We live in this county for a reason, not to zoom through it because we like the ruralness of the county. And that Highway W would create another four-way intersection.
Scott, could you address the shaving down of the hill?
Yeah,
That
that's
is-
a State Highway 175, so you'd have to talk to the state about that. And again, as Supervisor Bossert, if there's not a fatality, they're not going to do it. Right? And you'd be surprised that when you take a hill down like that, if we actually get a plan together to see how much right of way and farmland on the other side we'd actually take doing a hill like that, you might be surprised. And that person that said yes before might all of a sudden say no if they realize that all of a sudden there's a 8-foot cut right in front of their house and the slope goes back to their driveway. Yeah, definitely, we looked at it, but we're against the state highway. What are we going to do? Oh. Again, if they're not a fatality, they're not interested. Right.
If you get involved with dealing with DOT, with the state, they're less than, Scott could probably speak to it. It's a slog. It's, you have to, they don't play nice in the sandbox, let's put it that way.
Uphill pushes, hard decisions, right? Mhm. I don't have that
Right.
number with me.
Wait till I call on you. Supervisor.
Obviously, I am against the W extension. I will be voting for this amendment. First, I'd like to thank the constituents that have taken time to reach out to their supervisors throughout the county. It's nice to know that the people of Washington County are paying attention to the issues and actions that come before this body. $2.1 million spent on a brand new half-mile road halfway between two county roads, S and K, that are 1 mile apart is a waste of taxpayers' money. And yes, you're looking at using the jurisdictional transfer funds, but that too is taxpayer money. It may have come from the state, but we all pay fuel tax to provide that money for the Department of Transportation. So it is taxpayer money. It's almost like that money is burning a hole in your pocket. And I think it's wrong that we're going to use $2 million of it for a road that I don't believe we need. Back in July of 2020, Highway Commissioner Scott Schmidt proudly presented a highway plan, which you had every right to be proud of this, a highway plan that upgrades the highways in Washington County by 2031 without borrowing any more money. That's an achievement. Our 2050 highway plan is admired by counties throughout the state. We do a lot of good in this county. One thing in that plan, the absence of the interchange improvements, S and 175, was kind of a blot. So I'm really glad to see that the improvements on County Highway S, interchange at 175, are now being put before this board again. I don't think it's right that they're dangled as a carrot to try and get W extension through. Sorry, I keep my. When we address road and intersection safety issues, we have been taught that you take appropriate measures, then step back and monitor their worth. Why spend the big bucks if it's not necessary? The problem is at S, so fix that. Keep track of our yearly intersection safety analysis. We should probably follow through with abandoning the 83 spur. That's why this has been added to this amendment, because a lot of accidents happen up there. The curve going onto 175 to turn left is hard for some people to manage. If we put this brand new road across these fields, we unnecessarily interfere with other people's property and businesses. Earlier, people were mentioning, well, all this land is going for subdivisions. That is the property owner's right. These property owners are not being given that opportunity. These are not undeveloped lands. They are an integral part of an extensive business plan. When the Gehring family made the choice to farm for the future, they made a huge investment, which relies on their land owned and rented. This land is a source of food for their animals. It's also part of their nutrient management plan, with which our own county soils department looks over. They're even incorporated using cover crops to be even better stewards of their land for future generations. Someone said, well, they can rent land somewhere else to make up for this little bit of loss. County Executive Showman held listening sessions with farmers earlier this year. One major point coming out of those listening sessions was finding land without creating conflict with your neighbors is almost impossible. They're not making more farmland. Putting a road because the future cars may come at this point doesn't make any sense to me. So I hope you will please support this amendment. Let's get County Highway S fixed so that it is a safer place for our constituents to drive. And let's get rid of this Highway W thing once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Mahalik.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't know that you'll ever get rid of this once and for all, but we could at least look at the possibility of moving it down the road. And I don't kick cats, I kick cans. So, and kicking the can down the road, I think that actually this might be one of those times where it makes sense. I support this amendment. I think it makes a lot of sense to do S. I think it's critical that we do S, and there's the difference between efficiency and what I would call criticality. It really is important that S get fixed. So important that if this doesn't pass, I'm going to vote for the whole thing. The reason is this S is an accident waiting to happen. I have personally witnessed 2 almost incredibly severe accidents when people one vehicle in front of me and 2 cars in front of me with a pickup truck in between almost get obliterated by a car coming across, and they cut into 175 from S. One was a younger person on a phone, and one was just looked one way and was pulling out before they looked the other way. Both times the vehicle on 175 had to careen out of the way, and it was right in front of me. So this to me is critical. which means I am absolutely in support of this. I think that the eventuality of County Road W becoming fixed, if you will, and I love the fact that Scott brought along those pictures from 1970 or 1982 or whatever, and you could see the difference. And like you said, heavy lifting was done. I believe that that will happen, but I don't know that it should happen now. Okay, if it happens in 2026 or 2031, I honestly believe it is an eventuality, but I also believe in compromise. However, if there is no compromise, I will vote for the whole bill, okay, or the whole ordinance, whatever we're calling it, as regards to this. But I am first looking at passing this particular amendment, which I think addresses it. The reason is, regardless, we have to fix S. And if the only way I can fix S is to get W thrown in, then that's what's going to happen. But so I urge everybody to vote yes on this amendment. So we're only voting on S, just so you know where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to let Supervisor Krebs, I'm going to let somebody who hasn't spoke yet, then I'll come back to you. Supervisor Gurath.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm new at this. When in looking at the map, when it was up on the screen, and when I took a look at it again, which I hadn't noticed earlier, the extension, the 83 extension that you're talking about eliminating, I saw right then that what the problem would be if we didn't do the W extension, if, and getting rid of that, as far as maybe safety, probably, efficiency for sure. So what I'm thinking is we might consider keeping that 83 extension, but making that a 4-way stop and putting in rumble strips, to at least get drivers' attention, more of their attention for that intersection, and make sure that they stop as a way of providing more safety without eliminating the efficiency that it now provides.
Okay. Did you want to speak to that, Scott?
The issue I have is coming southbound. There's not really enough room for rumble strips there. We can certainly look at that as an option, but rumble strips have to be certain footage away from the stop sign itself, but you're also coming over a hill there. So again, if efficiency is not your problem, we could do a lot of things there. Again, this plan was put together with efficiency and safety in mind, and merging them together and coming to the best plan possible. If efficiency is no longer important to the board, we can look at other options that are maybe out there. We talked about cul-de-sacing earlier and stuff like that. It was just our impression that efficiently, effectively moving vehicles was an important thing to make happen out there. And decreasing one efficiency or a couple, maybe that's not the answer. And to Supervisor Bishop, the DOT did do some low cost implementation up there, not very effective yet. So that they have done that, just like we did for the intersection plan, some low cost safety improvements. They just haven't been effective yet. So they're still waiting on results. It's only been like 3 years. Again, you got to use a longer time. So, yeah.
Thank you. Supervisor Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My thoughts on this, if we decide to close the intersection at S, traffic headed toward Hartford will be rerouted to the intersection of 175 and K in St. Lawrence. That intersection is not a squared intersection, and all the properties at the intersection are currently in the right-of-way of Highway 175. How long before the state determines that the traffic flow through that intersection will demand a reconstruction, which will likely include a squaring of the intersection so all traffic will be at right angles? This means all the properties currently abutting the roadway there, with the exception of the church, will be torn down, basically gutting St. Lawrence. Just your thought, considered, you haven't talked about what are they going to do during the construction with S, and how many habits are going to get changed. They're going to go through St. Lawrence. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Supervisor Gundrum.
Speaking to keeping that section of 83 from 175 to S, you have to get rid of that, because what that will do is the traffic will have to go down to 175.
instead of having the double decision of either or. You stop the traffic and then it also becomes only a three-way stop there at S. There's only three ways you can go. You can go S or you can go 83 south. You won't have the option to go out to 175. So absolutely that needs a fix. I drive that all the time. I drove for 4 years from Slinger out to Highway 33 to work. And I often went to Hartford on my way home or came from Hartford. That is a really bad intersection, no doubt about it. Something needs to be done there to fix that. Now I'm thinking this is not a very safe option, but I'll probably vote for this if that's the only option out there. But I see to me, it should be all or none. But if the only way we can get something done here is to vote for this amendment, I'll vote for that amendment.
Thank you. Supervisor Hartwig. Okay, oh, wait a minute. Mhm. You need to unmute, Bob. There you go. No.
Am I off mute?
There you are. Okay. Nice and
Okay,
loud.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been listening to a lot of things here, and I agree with Supervisor Bishop. I think we should take care of the intersection on S and 175. And at this time, I think we need to consider the three family farms that could get cut through. The big reason for it, I think it's a waste of time sending them all down Highway W to 33, because I think it's going to create a lot more problems down there by the feed mill and that equipment dealer. So I think the best result is vote yes on the amendment and not wipe out the W idea for this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Supervisor Krebs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple bullet points to start with of things I've heard that I want to address. 83 north of S, that needs to be kept in this amendment and that needs to be vacated. For the people that travel on 175 and head south onto 83, that as described by Greg Geller, these are his words, but I agree. It's a high-speed on-ramp for that area. So you're going 55 through that intersection or faster. And besides that too, with the angle of veering off 175, the turn signal issues with that too. There's a lot of cars that are going straight, but their right-hand turn signals are still on. So the 83 section of road definitely needs to be kept in with this amendment. Before talking about cul-de-sacing S as an option, 2 years ago, that was not an option. I heard loud and clear from my constituents at the time, I'm not interested in going down that path, so please let's not. Another thing, by us doing only S at this time and not the W extension, I heard that there would be an increase of traffic on S. I don't think that would be the case. I think we're going to maintain the traffic as is. Was it 1,700 cars a day? I would think that's what we would have after these improvements to the area. Fixing S now, this is a first step. I think it's a good first step to at least get the critical improvements made today. But after this, I hope it's not tomorrow, but there is going to become a date or a time in the future where the progress or the development of that area will warrant W to come back up. I've said that and I've discussed it with the landowners. This is not going away anytime soon. W extension will always be shadowing over these fields. Unfortunately or fortunately, it's just a fact of life that it's going to be there. But for the time being, let's get S done for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My past comments aside, I think it's time to compromise and do something. I wish I had a crystal ball to know if we kept them together, which is the best plan, that it would pass, but I'm doubtful that it would. So I'm willing to support just doing S and kicking the can down the road. But like the mayor said, if there's not traffic there to warrant it now, we'll deal with it when the traffic warrants it. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Kelly.
I don't really have a whole lot to say on this one. Just wanted to ask, and I don't mean to be out of order here, but Scott Schmidt, you state that traffic coming down 175, that's no longer going to be able to turn on to 83, is going to go and make that right turn onto S to get to 83. And Supervisor Krebs, you're saying it isn't. Where is that traffic going to go? I mean, I'm having a little hard time understanding. And I'd be willing to accept your answer. I'm, so it's going to go to St. Lawrence and I'll go to K. And you realize that those houses are right on the corners there. If it's a truck, they have no swing room there.
All right. All right. So up on the screen is that area again. What Supervisor Krebs is saying, so right now you'll see the red X's are deleting the roadway, vacating that portion of the roadway. So yes, the traffic that's heading south on 175 would come, make that obtuse angle coming onto the here, right? Free movement here, coming here. If we have S being a free movement, now they've got a cross traffic that's not stopping, right? Or we can put stop signs there. Again, if you're not worried about efficiency, we can put a three-way stop there, right? And stop everyone everywhere in the county and not let them go through. So we could certainly look at that as a three-way stop again. But also, more importantly, as I stressed earlier, the people that are coming back north, they have to stop, make a right-hand turn. They're at this intersection. Still have to look, not a perfect intersection. Again, not 90, not great sightlines looking south, and get out into traffic, and someone might be coming over the top of that hill on them pretty quick. Not a lot of people make that turning movement right now. Not many people come out to S and go left because they're turning left onto A. You do? You. Every time I come to this meeting. So you come out, hold on. So you come up this road, take a right turn, then go back up on 175?
No, you go across the highway.
You'll go across S, right? So not many people are coming up 83, take a right turn just to go up this way, besides probably these homes that are right here, right? I'm assuming you stay on 83 till you get to 175. You don't? You will take 83 north, take a right turn, then go back north on 175?
So, quick question, Scott.
Yeah.
Now,
why would you do that?
Scott, a quick question.
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't say you would. I just.
There are people that actually do use 83, correct? We have
Yes.
1,200 or so cars
There's
going
like
through there.
900 vehicles a
Okay.
day that are using this that now will be forced to follow Tim when he's driving.
Tim. Right. So we're going to have about 2,500 roughly cars that'll use that intersection at S and 175 daily.
Yes. So
Okay.
you're pushing the traffic to an intersection that is limited sight distance.
Okay. You got everybody could. Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
You're pushing more traffic to an intersection that is not perfect for geometry. Poor sight distances and not a perfect 90-degree angle. That's what you want to do. That's fine, but you are pushing those 900 vehicles a day that use this stretch are now at this intersection and increasing traffic volumes at that intersection and turning movements at that intersection, which isn't a perfect one. That's what you're doing. Just making sure you're aware of that. That's what you're looking at doing.
Well, you want to call a question? Supervisor Smisek?
I'd like to call the question on the amendment.
Call the question on the amendment. Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Mary. We'll do this on a voice vote. All in favor of calling the question, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll call the question. You ready? Yeah, read it again. If you have it, it's kind of convoluted now. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so the amendment includes on page 1, line 9, striking out County Highway W and the word and then down to line 26, striking out the extension of County Highway W between State Highway 175 and State Highway 83, along with the realignment of on line 27. And then line 34, striking 2,550,000 and adding 500,000. Line 35, striking the extension of County Highway W between State Highway 175 and State Highway 83 in the word and. Line 36, striking the S on projects and adding and the vacating of State Highway 83 roadway north of County Highway S. Line 41, striking 2,550,000 and adding 500,000. And that's all.
Is everyone clear? Okay, we'll vote on this. Well, wait a sec. We'll vote on the amendment. Okay. Oh,
You can change it. We haven't closed.
yeah. Okay.
Can you remind Bob?
Bob, can you call in? Oh, what? Huh? Or text in, sorry. Supervisor Hartwig, we need to text in your vote. Okay, we got it. We're good.
Thank you.
All right, passes 18-6. Or 20-6. Okay. All right, we'll go back to the resolution 11. It's already been, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Supervisor Bossert.
So to be clear, I finally actually get to speak to the resolution and not an amendment,
Yep.
right?
You're speaking the resolution as amended.
Okay, so I think this is the wrong compromise. I think it makes it more dangerous. We're funneling more cars to that intersection of S and 175. And, you know, yeah, we're going to adjust the angles a bit, but the sight lines aren't going to be good. Scott is our highway commissioner. He's our safety expert. The Traffic Safety Commission is our safety experts. The Traffic Safety Commission agreed with the resolution as it was originally put in the packet. I think this is the wrong compromise. I think we're going backwards here. Yeah, we improve S, but we also funnel more cars to it. And, you know, granted, Supervisor Krieger Gundrum and Supervisor Mahalik decide to take a right turn onto S and then a left turn on the 175 and go up to 33 and then through Allenton on 33 rather than Highway W. Okay, they do that right now, but we're going to put another 900 cars making that left turn on an intersection with poor sight lines. And just so I know, what ability do we have on our own to change 175? I think I know the answer, but you know, if we wanted to bring down that hill, can we just do that on our own? The state would have to do that. We can't make changes to 175.
It would just be like us doing a town road or something like that.
Yep. So all we can do is change S so it approaches at a better angle. Those sight lines aren't going to get better. The speed limit's not going to go down. Where at W, it's a lower speed, better sight lines. I think this was the wrong compromise. And I can't in good conscience vote for the new resolution as it's proposed.
Thank you. Supervisor Mahalik.
So the supervisor would then leave the very bad angles, which we would hope to correct to as close to 90, you said 70 or so as we can, rather than do, make sure that we have some type of a fix. I guess I totally disagree with that. My point was to make sure that those angles would change enough to make a difference. I agree with Supervisor Krebs in the fact that I don't know that you can automatically, yeah, I know, please write this date down. We can't automatically ascribe those 900 cars to that intersection. That I think that there would be a number of people. We did a really nice job on K, or I should say you did a really nice job on K. And I think that you would see a lot of people go down and just turn on K rather than taking the S route. So taking every one of those vehicles and putting them on S, I think is a little bit more hyperbole in order to make a point, and I disagree with it. So I would urge you to vote for this. It does make the most sense. It is something I'm eminently familiar with, obviously very concerned, which is why I think that W eventually is going to go through as Hartford continues to grow. That may be 5 or more years out. I'm guessing it will be. So this really is the proper first step, and it would be a shame to see this thing go down and maintain those very bad angles on a very dangerous intersection because it was a compromise that a few people didn't want. I think that's a mistake. One thing though is I did want to mention as regards to roundabouts. I forgot to bring it up. We had a French high school foreign exchange student at our home. And when he was driving around Washington County, and then we took him to the Cabela's and he looked at it and he thought it was absolutely fascinating. He says, "Why are you building so many roundabouts? We're getting rid of them in France." I thought that was fascinating and just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Kelly.
I believe this was a bad compromise too. I don't like the idea that the traffic moving 175 south onto 83 is now going to have to J-hook around on S or continue down to K. I don't see that as acceptable, especially if you're coming up 83, you go to S and you make a left turn onto 175 with the corrected S turn in there. It actually elongates that intersection, which then makes a little bit of a problem for a car to pull out and get up to speed, especially with traffic bearing down on them from a blind curve and coming down a hill. So for that reason, I will not support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Bossert.
A question for Commissioner Schmidt. So the improvements at S, were they designed to accommodate a small amount of traffic that was just going straight on S, or were they designed to accommodate a large amount of traffic coming up 83, turning right onto S, and then either crossing or turning left on the 175?
We definitely looked at it, the decrease in traffic. Again, that portion of Highway S going from 1,700 cars down to 200. Right, we look at that going, all right, now we can, instead of that skew angle being 90, we can decrease that a little bit. So certainly took it into account that the traffic movements going through the intersection are completely different when you have 900 extra cars going through it versus, and then the 1,500 cars that we're planning on going another direction. You're adding a lot, you're adding just keeping those 1,500 out there, right, which is actually the 1,700 one direction, plus another 900. You are vastly increasing the amount of traffic to a poor designed intersection. Not perfect, right? It's got the sight distance issues, coming over the curve, all that kind of stuff. Just pointing it out. You may be better off doing nothing than that.
Yep. So S was, as it's in the packet, was designed for 200 cars, not 1,700 plus some portion of 900.
Right.
Correct?
Again, we looked at efficiencies and safety, merged the two the best we could. And that was our thought process going into this. Again, not looking at, reducing S to a cul-de-sac and stuff like that, right? So that options weren't out there. If that's something the board wants to pursue, we can certainly look at less efficient options up there that are available.
All right, thank you.
Supervisor Markwart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to say thank you to the supervisors who supported this. I disagree that this is not a proper compromise. It is an incremental step. The amount of traffic that's going through that general intersection, whether it be one leg or multiple legs of it, the way it's laid out now, is not really going to change. And eventually, I agree, down the road, I can see this, extension probably being needed, but why do it ahead of time? I mean, if you want to argue about ultimate safety and things like that, why not make that intersection an overpass over 175 right away and keep it from being an intersection at all? I mean, we take steps as the areas develops and the traffic counts increase, and I think this is a logical partial step. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Gunrum.
I think though, I agree. I think what you're missing, Chris, is a lot of the traffic is going to turn from 83 onto K and then up to 175. Well, they're probably doing that already. I like the W option. It's a preference, seriously. I prefer the same option that Tim uses. I go up to S and then I go over to W into Allenton and then over to West Bend if I'm coming from Hartford. But I'm suspecting that a large portion of those 900 vehicles are going to turn at K because you have no idea how really a short a space that is between 83 and 175. The trucks are going to choose whatever is best for them, and they're probably going to go out to 41. And then they're going to go north or south. Nobody likes the Highway 175 option. That whole section in there is difficult to drive. It's a nice little rural area. It isn't the option that trucks will take. They're going to go K to 41, and then they're going to decide, are they going to get to 33 that way? And that is going to be their quickest way. So I think you should consider that is probably what is going to happen. And the reason I take W is because I like to meander. I'm not in a big hurry. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Supervisor Dice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't drive these roads at all. So this was a topic that I just want to thank all the supervisors for your input on it. Regardless of the fact that we're going back and forth, it helped me make my decision. I do want to thank the people in the audience for being here. It's very heartwarming to me knowing that you care enough to be here and fight for something you believe in. So thank you for that. And I appreciate the emails that I did get. So all in all, I think whatever this decision is, please understand that we're trying to make the best decision that we can on an issue that's very emotional and close to all your hearts. That I understand as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have one quick statement. I'll have the final say on this one. I'm hoping that Pam or any of her compatriots don't have to pray over an accident victim from S and 175 with increased traffic. I'm going to be praying that there aren't any accidents either, that everyone is safe through that intersection until such a time that we take preventative measures to eliminate that or at least minimize that roadway to being used. So we're hoping with the W expansion that would get down to what, 200 a day? And 200 a day going through an intersection that's a problem, as opposed to even 1,500. Even if you're not looking at the 900, it's a problem. So, but anyhow, we'll call the question. See no further comment. We'll be voting on the amended resolution for the capital improvement plan. Supervisor Hartwig, could you vote, please? Text in. Got it yet? No. Supervisor Hartwig, could you text in your vote? I think he's trying. Please, if we could hold down the noise from the crowd, please, it'd be great. After the vote. And motion passes 22-4. Okay, we're going to take a short break, 5 minutes. Thank you, everybody for coming. I really do appreciate it. So, I actually wish we had more public engagement than what we do, rather You okay? You good? Okay. You look awful red. Oh, you guys, you got rosy cheeks. All right. Next order of business, 2020 Resolution 12, relocation order, County Trunk Highway S. I need a motion. Supervisor Schleif, Supervisor Bishop. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on this electronically. I called the meeting to order like 4 minutes ago. Okay. No, we're voting on 2020 Resolution 12, the relocation order of County Trunk Highway S. You really want to speak to it? Seriously? Okay. Okay. Go ahead. You're on.
Thank you, and I will make it quick and to the point.
Talking microphone so we hear you.
Thank you. I will make it quick. But before we approve the relocation order, now that we have direction from the board that Highway S is the preferred or the only option at this point that we want to pursue immediately, I think this should be tabled. And I think that the Public Works Committee should reevaluate and relook at the Highway S design now that the W extension is not a portion of it, to ensure that this is the proper design that they would like to move forward with.
Second.
No. There's no motion to table. It'd be a motion to refer back to committee.
Motion to refer back to committee.
That's my
Table
first.
The table would effectively kill it.
No, table it postpones it to later in this meeting.
Okay. All right. Is there a second? Okay. Okay. Supervisor Counter at the second. Did you want to?
Thank you very much. I am assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, this body does not do specifics, that we set policy and you do the specifics. That's how it works, which means that we don't have to worry about that. You're going to come up with a design. I mean, even though you have something there, or are we being forced to go exactly as this plan is?
So what this does is you are buying this exact right of way, right? If we make any changes, like say there's a property we don't need to have right of way from, we just took their right of way or land from them and we didn't need to. Or conversely, if we change the design a little bit, we might have to come back to you for another relocation or saying, we missed this, we're off by 5 feet here or 10 feet there. So I think it's a very
Well, I'm
prudent-
going to ask you then.
Yeah.
Do you think that what Supervisor Krebs has put forward, it makes sense?
It makes absolute sense.
Well, there you go then. Okay, let's go with the expertise. Thank you very much.
Seeing no further discussion on this, we'll vote all in favor of returning it to committee. We'll vote electronically. Or voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Okay.
Who are the nays?
Nay.
Raise your hand if you were a nay.
Okay, it goes back to committee. Okay. Bob and Brian. Refer back to committee. Just raise your hand.
Yeah, we're doing it every month.
Yes, okay, 2 yeses. Okay. The relocation order for County W is mute, and we can skip that.
Those questions.
Can we still do W? I mean, we haven't approved the funding, but.
I can't answer that.
For later, no?
I don't think so. I think we just voted it down. So we said there's no funding to be used for it. So that's my understanding. renaming 83 to W, and that's moot also. Or is it?
Right. Did you need a motion second first, or can I go ahead?
No, go ahead. You can speak
Okay.
to it.
All right. So first one to the buzzer gets to pick the name of the road. So to have a little fun, so just to, yeah, no.
I like that, BS, just for the record.
Yeah. And so if you, yeah. If you look in your packet, we had County Highway W, obviously with extension, chose WS going north of that because it was between W and S. No other logic but that. With this being its own highway for now, having SW and SW all in the same location might not be the best, because when people say, where do you live? SW, S, or W might not be best. In your packet report, and potentially up on the screen in a second, are some lettered options that are available to you. Now understand that in the future, when you do W extension, you're going to have County Highway, I'll use X because we already have an X coming to Highway W, so be it, right? If they ever do the extension, right? Because you're going to have W coming down, stopping, and then another road name starting. Right in the middle there, in the presentation, I'll try to zoom in a little bit better and get it back in the center, not by doing that. There are some single letters left in the county. B, J, L. I would not suggest L because it looks like an I sometimes. N, which we used to have going out of Hartford, going to the west, which is now a city street. R, oh, and X actually is back on the table. My apologies. We did take X over from the town of Farmington several years ago. So dual letters, any letters together, combination you can, or 3 letters if you so choose, like SMS. Just saying. So SOS.
I like RX. Okay, take a motion for 2021 Resolution 14, resolution renaming portion, State Highway 83 to County Trunk Highway W. That's not part of it. Another portion of State Highway 83 County Trunk Highway WS, or whatever amended. Supervisor Kelling, Supervisor Mahalik. Okay, who's Mahalik is first.
You said the first one on the buzzer gets to name it. I would suggest, I would go triple letters, which is HXF, which happens to be the 3-letter designator of the Hartford Municipal Airport. So thank you very much.
Oh, okay. All right. But I'm bump. Supervisor Schleif.
I'll put X hat in the ring.
X, okay.
I'll second.
Supervisor Krebs.
Are we still taking offers on names?
Sure.
I would offer to rename Highway 80W or Highway 83W.
Gotta be letters. County Road.
So the issue we have with W is that when you get towards the Geller's Farm where the split was going to happen,
Yep.
if you continue W north, the same addresses could attach onto the other part of Highway W because they parallel each other. I can go back to grab this screen here. So I'll just pan down here a little bit. So because you have W and W will be parallel to each other, you can have an address on that W and an address on that W.
Because they're overlapping on their north, south. Okay.
That's why we had W up to a certain point and pick WS north of that. But we would suggest that if you're going to keep this as one road for now, name it one letter, and then it would be that letter all the way.
Sorry, Tim.
through. You could certainly, if you wanted to, you could stop W at K and have a different letters north, right? This is on or wherever, right?
Can
But I'm saying that when you change addresses, it's difficult on people. As doing it, I'll pick on. We're starting addresses now. She's on HH up in Farmington and West Monroe. And so you want to do this one time. If we have to go through, it'll just be that letter. When you get to another letter,
Again. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Bishop.
I vote for B. B is in boy.
He is in Bishop. I want County Road Don. Okay. Supervisor Mary.
Is it really necessary that we spend the time here tonight between 26 people to try to come up with one letter when the highway department is perfectly skilled to make this decision for us?
Yeah, would you be making a motion, an amendment to let the highway department
I
decide what
would
is the
so
best?
move, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Can we do a voice vote on that one? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, great. So back to the resolution, we have to actually, do we need to do that one electronically for resolution 14? You can vote. Yep. Yeah, as amended. I don't think we need to reread that. Are we ready? Okay, ready? All right. Okay. Supervisor Gallitz and Supervisor Hartwig can. Did we, sorry. Everybody vote. Make sure your yes is green. Not that I'm. 25 to 1. Okay. Somebody looks a little somebody looks a little sheepish out there, but we'll leave it go. 2021 Resolution 15, resolution supporting 2021 Senate Bill 293, amending state law regarding marriage license applications. Supervisor Guzzi, Supervisor Mary. Any discussion on this? Supervisor Dice. Okay. All right. Supervisor Mahalik.
This was passed unanimously at the administrative committee meeting, which was the meeting just preceding this, and we would urge your adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing. No, I think everybody's pretty clear on it, right? If you want to, if you want to say something, you can. Okay. Okay. We'll vote on this electronically. Passes unanimously. 2021 ordinance 2, amending, removing certain policy provisions from committee authority and correcting cross references, amend sections 1528, 1529, 1530, 1531, 1532, 1533, 1537, 589, 10310, 134, 135, 4, 179, 10, and 252, 2. Supervisor Schleif, Supervisor Dice. 38. Mine comes up the wrong, comes up with the wrong one. Am I on the right one? Ordinance 2, line 38 is blank. Okay, this one here, well, 36. 36. Okay, I know you're not gonna like this, Supervisor Mahalik, but I'd like to offer an amendment to strike lines 36 and 37. As you so eloquently stated, we're not supposed to get into the nuts and bolts of things, and we're to leave it to our experts. And being that this really is vague, and I don't believe it's workable that we get involved with the actual consultation and advising on the development of personnel policies. So I'll look for a second for that. Second by Supervisor Schleif. Any discussion on the amendment? Supervisor Mahalik.
Thank you very much. And you are absolutely correct at how I would think about this. We actually voted on this very language in this body, and we took out something as far as getting any type of approval. We just changed it to advise and consult, and we actually had the discussion on with this as regards to county personnel policies. I disagree with the chair when he says as far as nuts and bolts. This isn't nuts and bolts. The example was given when I expressed my concern when this was going to be changed before. Well, you know, we don't have to comment on what color pencils. That's absolutely true, but that's not what this is saying. Regard to development of county personnel property. Policies that has nothing to do with pencils. Please know that I'm not looking at the current county executive. Remember, Josh Schoeman is not always going to be the county executive. And to have something with regard to the development of county personnel policies, we're only asking to advise and consult. That's all we're doing. He still gets to do whatever he wants, or she gets to do whatever she wants. What we're asking is that it is mandatory that there be some input on development of county personnel policies, and it's just that. It's input to advise and consult. Has nothing to do with stopping what he or she does, because of course the county executive can do what they want with well beyond the advise and consult. But I think it's very foolish because we have 26 and that number may go down to what, 21 or whatever, but we're going to have approximately 24 people, I think, that can talk to the committee members on the administrative committee, or that can actually serve on the administrative committee and have some input other than just what the county executive wants. We're making a mistake by getting rid of this. It's not a big thing, but it is a thing. And I'm really, really hoping that this be turned down. I think that it's again, very, very important that we have some advice consent. Remember, we went from a county administrator to a county executive, okay? And I understand that distinction. The thing is, how much do you really want to give up? This is an opportunity to at least advise and consult. Please, please, please vote this down. Vote no.
Yeah, we're on now. Okay, Supervisor Schleif. Oh, hold on. Yeah, no.
Having heard all that and remembering our discussion in executive, I withdraw my second.
Second. I don't know if, hang on a minute. Then, okay. Then I can ask for another second, or? Okay.
The motion belongs to the board once it's made, so he can't withdraw the second.
Okay, Supervisor Bossert.
I'm just going to chime in that I agree with everything Supervisor Mahalik said, and I encourage everybody to vote against the amendment.
Okay, again, the language on this is advise and consult. It is the purview of the executive branch of this government to create that under the administrative. So having us meddle in things that we're not to be meddling in, I guess, is the best way to put it. And besides the fact that we have no real authority to change any personnel policy unless we bring it to the board. So to me, it just doesn't fit with the policy making board that we are. Electronically.
Sorry, we had to reset the system, so Chris is.
Oh, Chris, sorry. Supervisor Dice.
I would agree with the chair on this. I think this is going beyond what we are supposed to be doing. Yeah, I mean, on administrative committee, have any of you looked at the whole policy book for the county? I think it has to stay. I think it needs to be deleted from this resolution ordinance. It's not our role, people. That's my feeling. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Gundam.
I just wanted to ask our attorney, what is your thought on what is the authority of the county executive and the administrative? And are we trying to do something that is not really in the statute?
In 59.17 of the Wisconsin statutes, it authorizes the county executive to hire department heads, manage the departments, and set the policies within the departments. I believe that this is a vague code provision that has no real meaning to it because it doesn't really give the committee any real authority to do anything. On a larger point, if you look at the basis of what's really underlying this whole ordinance change is the fact that there was a lot of confusion amongst departments as to when you bring a policy before committee, county board, when can you just do something internally, when do you go to the county executive, and so on. So a committee, an ad hoc committee was put together to study that, and a chart was developed. Aaron Dahl is here, who is instrumental in putting that together. And it sets the course for when things come to committee, when things come to the board, what gets voted on and what doesn't get voted on. So major policy considerations that affect dollars and cents and taxpayers and so on and so forth will come to the board, even if they're personnel related, and things that are more internal operations, those things would not. They'd be handled by the county executive internally or through HR, through the personnel handbook. So when I included this, or we included this original omission, if you will, that was reinserted, it was in the spirit of that it really doesn't do anything. It doesn't serve any real purpose in terms of have any legal effect. And the new chart that was developed really addresses the larger concerns that you might have about larger policies and that are being implemented and how personnel has to respond to those things. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. Supervisor Mahalik.
Thank you. I think to a large degree, this actually gets to close. What you're doing is you're emasculating the commissions, committees as regards to, again, advise and consult. We're not asking for authority. We're not asking for change. We're asking that the county executive listen to a couple of things. So if we have a county executive that isn't Josh Schoman, that isn't going to try and go out of his way to listen to everybody, that there would be something there that says, if there's something that might rub the majority, if not all, the county board or the administrative committee, if it's going in front of the administrative committee based on a personnel decision, that they're at least required to talk about it to a committee. I don't think that that means nothing. I don't think that we're being specifically vague. I think what it does is it puts a requirement to having a conversation, and I don't think that's wrong. Thank you.
Well, I think it's kind of, I hate to say this, but it's looking at a problem, looking for or a solution, looking for a problem, or however, I butcher that one too. So, but if this comes to the point where we end up with a county executive that is not as agreeable, that we do have issues, maybe that's the time to address it. But right now, there is advice and consent on a regular basis with the county executive we have right now. So I just think it's it's beyond our purview. It really is at this point. So, sorry, Supervisor Sorcy.
Thank you. Brad, for you. I see a lot of it in Milwaukee when Abley was around, that chairman and him going back and forth. And now the board can overrule the whole situation. I mean, the county executive vetoes, and then we come back with something and they're going back and forth. But if the board votes his thing down, then it's down, right?
Well, Milwaukee is its own country. Even in statute, there's a lot of exceptions and things there. But the fact of the matter is that the actions of the county executive, unless they involve legislation, wouldn't really come before the board for you to vote on or not. And I think what shouldn't be lost is that there are certain things by statute the county executive does, and whether it's Josh Schoman or somebody else, that's the bed we made when we took that vote. So there are things you may like or not like about it, and this may be one of those things. And that's why we went to develop an overarching policy on policies. We joke about that title, but that directs when things are to come to the board, when things are to come to committee. And it's generally, and if you have the chart in your packets, it'll indicate what those things are. And presumably it would be those major things that you would have to weigh in on and vote down and consider, but it wouldn't be more minor things, the day-to-day operations of personnel. And that was the thought.
Thanks.
Well, just one more person wants to speak. Well,
Short.
yeah. Supervisor Gardner.
Couldn't we have added this to every single one of the sections? I agree with you, it ought to be removed because it should either be part of all of the committees or not at all. And I agree with you, it doesn't belong. It still is going to go to the county for a vote.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. Seeing there's no further discussion, we'll vote on this amendment electronically. Amendment fails 10-16. All right. Back to the ordinance. We have a motion and a second. We will vote on that electronically again. Once we're set up. One vote, make sure your red or green light is on. Or yellow. If there's a reason to abstain, you should state it. Are we done? Okay. Motion passes 19-7. Moving on to ordinance 2021 ordinance 3, amend sections 1536, 49-4, and 70-3 relating to committee organization and rules, per diem compensation and powers and duties and rules, per diem compensation and powers and duties. Is there any discussion on this matter? Seeing none, we'll vote on this electronic. Oh, I'm sorry, you need a motion. Motion by Smisek, second by Markort. Any discussion? Okay. We'll vote on this electronically. Passes unanimously. Number 7, number 8, action on the community block grant. We run into stumble with the state, believe it or not, that there's some extra hurdles we need to go through. Do you need to speak to that? Okay, so what we'll be doing is postponing it to the next meeting. Oh, first one? I'm sorry, first one. I'm sorry. Architectural contract.
You're good to go on the architectural contract.
Oh, we are now.
On the architectural contract.
Okay, all right. And I'll need a motion and a second on that. Supervisor Mary, Supervisor Mahalik. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on that electronically. I thought it was both of them. Just the next one. Okay. Stay up there, you're gonna need to talk about it. Or one of you guys. Okay. Passes unanimously. Okay, action on the community block grant administrator contract. That's where the roadblock is.
So this particular agenda item, we will need a motion to postpone to next month. And the reason for that is because the the state is asking us to essentially hold a hearing at the executive committee level. I believe it'll be executive committee on the issue of whether or not this particular firm has any conflicts of interest that would prohibit them from being able to honor this contract.
Okay. Supervisor Gonring, Supervisor Milliken. Any further discussion? Voice vote, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. On your desk is the 2021 WC Annual Conference registration. Linda Doro is no longer here. You have to fill this out yourself. Okay, and I saved it to the end so that you're not like me and forget about it. So if you want to go, make sure you do this. Takara will be doing the hotel reservations, so let her know. Turn this in if you're gonna go. What else? Oh, the deadline. The deadline is, and it's a hard deadline, please, May 18th. As far as I know, it's in in the Dells. No, it's in La Crosse. It's in La Crosse, depending upon what La Crosse has. I don't know. Yeah, so you may have to bring your mask. Okay. Next meeting date. Everybody ready to go? Next meeting date is, Wednesday, June 9th, 2021, 6:00 p.m. Same bat channel, right? Same bat time. We're adjourned. Thank you. Yeah, could have.